The $50 bill hit the concrete and slid to a stop against the toe of Nathan Cole's cracked work boot. "Pick it up," Victoria Sterling said. "Buy yourself lunch. Leave real machines to real engineers." 22 people in that hangar laughed. Nathan didn't move. He didn't look at the money. He looked at the $60 million jet behind her, the one 12 engineers had failed to fix in 4 hours, and he said 6 words that stopped the laughing cold. "Give me 5 minutes, ma'am." She bet him $5 million he couldn't. She had no idea he'd already found it. And she had no idea that what he found wasn't a malfunction, it was a murder waiting to happen. Hers. Before we start, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this story has traveled. And if you believe a man's worth isn't measured by his hands, subscribe and stay with me. This one goes, places you won't see coming. The alarm went off at 4:15, and Nathan Cole was already awake. He'd been awake since 3:40, staring at the water stain on the ceiling of the double-wide, doing the math again. The math never changed. He did it anyway, the way a man presses on a bruise to see if it still hurts. Rent on the shop, 1,141 days late. Truck payment, 282 months behind. Lily's field trip to the Science Center, $35 due Friday. Checking account, $112.63. He shut the alarm off before it could wake her and sat on the edge of the mattress with his hands hanging between his knees. They were bad hands, knuckles like walnuts, 2 fingers that didn't straighten all the way anymore. A burn scar across the left palm from a turbocharger. In 2011 that he'd grabbed because a kid named Danny was about to grab it first. 20 years of hands. They'd earned him a mortgage he'd lost, a marriage he'd lost, and a 7-year-old girl he'd have burned both of them off for. He got up quiet. The floor in the hallway had a squeak in it, third board from the bathroom door, and he stepped over it out of pure habit. Lily's door was open 2 inches. He put his eye to the gap the way he had every morning for 4 years, and there she was, sideways across the bed, like she'd been thrown there 1 foot out from under the blanket, the stuffed rabbit with the chewed ear jammed under her chin. "Morning, kiddo," he said so low it was barely sound. She didn't stir. He pulled the blanket back over her foot and went to make coffee. At 5:20, he was standing in the door of her room with a plate in his hand. "Lily, up." "No." "Yes." 5 more minutes. "You said that yesterday, and then you missed the bus, and then I had to drive you, and then we were both late, and Mrs. Ackerman gave me a look. You want your dad getting looks from Mrs. Ackerman?" One eye opened. "She gives everybody looks." "She gives me special looks." Lily sat up, hair standing off her head like she'd been struck by lightning. She looked at the plate. "Is that toast?" "That's toast." "With the cinnamon?" "With the cinnamon." "Then okay," she said with enormous dignity, and held out her hands. He sat on the floor with his back against her dresser and drank his coffee while she ate. This was the best 14 minutes of his day, and he knew it, and he'd known it for 4 years, and he'd never once told anybody, because who do you tell a thing like that, Dad? Emma Whitaker said her dad flies planes. He might. She said he flies the big ones. Then he probably does. Lily chewed. I told her you fix planes, and she said fixing isn't the same as flying. Nathan looked into his coffee. She's not wrong. But I said... Lily's chin came up, and he saw her mother in the set of it, which still after 4 years hit him somewhere under the ribs. I said, anybody can fly one, only some people can make it fly again after it stops. Nathan didn't say anything for a second. Was that okay to say? She asked. Lily, he said. That was the best thing anybody's said to me all year. It's January 8th. Doesn't change my answer. The shop was 11 minutes away, and he made it in 9 because the light on Route 9 had been broken since October and nobody'd come to fix it. Cole Aircraft Service said the sign. His father had hand-painted it in 1989, and Nathan had never had the heart or the money to replace it, so now it read, Cole AIRC Aft C Vice, and half the town called the place the Aarki Aft as a joke, and Nathan had made his peace with that. Ray Dooley was already there, sitting on an overturned bucket by the bay door with a thermos between his boots. You're early, Nathan said. I'm 68, Ray said. I don't sleep. I just lie there resenting people. That's the spirit. Ray was the only employee Nathan had, and Nathan hadn't paid him in 5 weeks, and Ray kept showing up anyway, and neither of them had discussed it out loud, because to discuss it out loud would have meant one of them had to do something about it. Nathan unlocked the bay. The door groaned up on its track. Inside in the gray light sat a 1978 Cessna 172 with its cowling off and its guts showing belonging to a dentist named Whitmore who'd been promising to pay since Thanksgiving. Whitmore call, Nathan asked. Whitmore called, Ray said. And he says his mother-in-law's had a stroke and he's in Toledo and he'll get to it. Is his mother-in-law real? Nathan, Ray said. In my experience, mother-in-laws in Toledo are almost never real. Nathan set his coffee down on the toolbox and stood there a minute looking at that Cessna. His father's toolbox. Big red snap-on dented all to hell, and on the inside of the lid in his father's block capitals in grease pencil that had never quite worn off, machines always tell the truth. Learn to listen. He'd read it probably 9,000 times. Some mornings it was a comfort. Some mornings it was just a man who'd been dead 11 years telling him something that didn't pay the rent. Ray. Yep. If I said the word Toledo to you right now, I'd say we're not going to make rent, Ray said. Yeah, Nathan said. That's what I'd say too. At 9:40, a man in a suit came into the shop, and Nathan knew what he was before he'd cleared the door, because men in suits never came to the air aft with good news. Mr. Cole. Depends. Denton Property Group. He held out an envelope. I'm not the bad guy here, all right. I just carry the paper. Nathan wiped his hands on a rag, which was a thing he did when he needed 3 seconds. He took the envelope. He didn't open it. How long, he said. 14 days. 14. Mr. Cole. I've got 16 of these in the car. You want me to tell you you're the one I feel bad about? The man shrugged, and it wasn't unkind. You're the one I feel bad about. He left. Ray was standing in the doorway of the office with a wrench in his hand, not using it for anything. 14 days, Nathan said. Ray didn't answer for a long moment. Then, your dad went 26 years in this building. I know it. 26 years and the man never owed a soul a nickel. Ray, Nathan said, and his voice came out flatter than he intended. I know. Ray looked at the floor. Sorry. No, you're right. That's the hell of it. You're right. At 2:11 that afternoon, 4 miles across the field in Hangar 6 at Aurelia Aviation, a $60 million Gulfstream refused to start for the 4th hour running. And Victoria Sterling was doing the thing she did when she was furious, which was get very, very quiet. Say it again, she said. Derek Voss, her chief operating officer, spread his hands. Vic, say it again, Derek, slowly, so I can hear it in a normal human voice and understand why it isn't insane. The aircraft won't start. It's a Gulfstream. I'm aware. It's 91 days old. I'm aware. I am supposed to be in Zurich, Victoria said. In 19 hours sitting across a table from a man who has already told me twice that he thinks women in aerospace are a marketing decision, and if I walk into that room late, that is the only thing he will remember about me for the rest of his life. Then take the charter. There is no charter, Derek. I checked it's Wednesday in January, and the entire eastern seaboard is iced in, and I am not flying commercial with 211 strangers and a briefcase full of the only thing this company has left. Derek said nothing. Victoria turned and looked at the airplane. 12 engineers. 12 of the best-paid engineers in the state. They'd been on that jet since 10 in the morning with 3 laptops apiece, and they had produced 11,000 pages of diagnostic data and a complete and total absence of an airplane that worked. Marcus, she said. The lead engineer looked up like a man being called to the principal's office at 46 years old. Ma'am? Tell me what's wrong with my airplane. He stopped, restarted. The FADEC is throwing a lockout on both channels. We've cleared it 11 times. It comes back. Why? That's what Why, Marcus? We don't know, he said. There was a silence in Hangar 6 that a man could have parked a truck in. 11,000 pages, Victoria said. And the answer is, we don't know. The system is telling us there's a fault. The system can't tell us where the fault is. Ma'am, respectfully, this is a 500,000-line software environment, and if we start pulling panels at random, then pull them not at random. We need more time. You've had 4 hours. Then we need 4 more. Victoria closed her eyes for exactly 1 second, which was for her the equivalent of another woman screaming. Get out, she said. All of you. Go stand somewhere else and think. Which is how Samantha Hayes ended up in the parking lot at 2:40 in the afternoon in January, with no coat on, making a phone call she was fairly sure would get her fired. She was 31. She'd been at Aurelia 14 months. She was the youngest person in that hangar, and the only one who'd grown up in a town where things got fixed instead of replaced, and her father had run a tractor shop in Marion County, and there was a name he used to say. She'd looked it up on her phone 20 minutes ago and found a website that hadn't been updated since 2016 and a phone number. It rang 4 times. Cole? Is this Nathan Cole? Depends who's asking and whether you're calling about money I owe. My name's Samantha Hayes. I'm an engineer at Aurelia Aviation, across the field. A pause. Okay. Mr. Cole, this is going to sound strange. Ma'am, I'm 41 days late on rent, and I've got 14 days to live. Strange is a step up. Samantha laughed once, and then remembered she was standing in a parking lot in 29-degree weather, about to end her career. We have a G650 that won't start, she said. It's been down since 10 this morning. We have 12 engineers on it. They've got nothing. And She swallowed. I grew up in Marion County. My dad ran Hayes Equipment. He used to say there was a guy over here who could fix anything with an engine in it. And when I looked it up, the name was Cole. That was my father, Nathan said. Oh. Her stomach dropped. Is he 11 years? I'm sorry. Don't be. He'd have liked knowing your daddy said that. A pause on the line. What kind of fault? FADEC lockout both channels, no source. Clears and returns. Under what conditions does it return? What? When does it come back? Nathan said. Immediately after a start attempt, after you touch something. Samantha stood very still in that parking lot. Nobody's asked that, she said. Somebody should have. Mr. Cole? She looked back at the hangar. Through the glass, she could see Victoria Sterling standing dead center of that floor, with her arms crossed like a woman waiting for a firing squad to get organized. Mr. Cole, I can't pay you. I don't have the authority to hire you. If you come over here, there's a real chance you get laughed at and thrown out, and I get walked to my car with a box. Then why are you calling? Because in 19 hours, my boss is supposed to get on that airplane, Samantha said. And I'd rather get fired than let her get on it while nobody knows what's wrong with it. The line was quiet for 3 seconds. Gate 4, Nathan said. Gate 4. 20 minutes. Ray watched him load the toolbox into the truck. They paying you? Nope. They asking you. One of them is. You got 14 days, Ray said, and you're going across the field for free. Nathan slammed the tailgate. You know what my old man used to say about that? Your old man said a lot of things, and every one of them was true, and not one of them was profitable. Nathan opened the driver's door. Stopped. Ray, there's a girl over there says her boss is flying that plane tomorrow, and nobody knows what's wrong with it. Ray chewed on that. Yeah, he said finally. All right, go on. Mom, Hangar 6 was the size of a church and lit like an operating room, and when Nathan Cole walked in at 3:18 in a canvas coat with Cole stitched over the pocket in thread that had faded from red to pink, carrying a dented red toolbox by the handle, every head in the building turned. Somebody laughed. Just one. Short, surprised, involuntary, the noise a man makes when the punchline shows up before the joke. And then it spread. Nathan had heard that sound before. He'd heard it in high school, and he'd heard it at his wife's sister's wedding, and he'd heard it at the bank in 2019, and it had never once gotten easier, and he'd never once let it show on his face. He set the toolbox down. Victoria Sterling walked across that floor like she was crossing a room to fire somebody. "Who is this?" Samantha stepped forward. "Ms. Sterling." "Samantha, who is this?" "His name is Nathan Cole. He runs a repair shop across the—" "A repair shop?" "Yes." "A repair shop," Victoria said. "Across the field. Samantha. I have a $2 billion aviation company and 12 people with master's degrees, and you called a repair shop?" "Yes, ma'am." "Why?" "Because they've had 4 hours," Samantha said, "and he hasn't had 5 minutes." Victoria turned. She looked at Nathan Cole. She looked at the coat and the boots and the hands. She had done this her whole life. She read a room in 90 seconds, and she was right 80% of the time, and the 20% had never cost her anything she couldn't afford. "What's your certification?" she said. A&P, 22 years. Gulfstream type. "No, ma'am." Turbofan experience. Some. PT6s mostly. Garrett's, couple of TFEs. "Those are turboprops. Most of them are yes, ma'am." "Do you understand," Victoria said, "that the aircraft behind me costs more than every vehicle you have touched in your entire professional life, combined multiplied by 10. "Yes, ma'am." "And you came anyway." "Yes, ma'am." Marcus behind her said, "Vic, come on," in a voice pitched to Carrie. And a young one, 26, maybe hair product. Nathan never got his name said, "Did somebody call for the oil change?" The hangar came apart. It wasn't cruel laughter exactly. That was the thing about it. It was comfortable laughter. It was the laughter of people who had been humiliated by a machine for 4 hours and had finally been handed something they could feel superior to. Nathan stood in it. Didn't blink. Didn't look at the floor. And Victoria Sterling, who was not a cruel woman, who was a woman 4 hours into the worst day of her professional life with a company balanced on a knife and a plane that wouldn't start. And a man in Zurich who thought she was a marketing decision did the single worst thing she had ever done. She reached into her coat. She took out a $50 bill. She held it up, and the hangar quieted down to watch, and she let it go. It fell. It slid. It came to rest against the toe of Nathan Cole's boot. "Buy yourself lunch," Victoria said. "Leave real machines to real engineers." Nobody moved. Later, much later, in a deposition room under oath, 3 different people would describe the next 11 seconds, and all 3 would describe them the same way. He didn't look at the money. Nathan Cole did not look down. He looked past her shoulder at the airplane, and his eyes went unfocused the way a man's do when he's listening to something in the next room. "Ma'am," he said, "can I ask you a question?" Victoria's chin lifted a fraction. "What?" "That APU's been running how long?" "What auxiliary power unit?" Nathan said. "It's running. Has been since I walked in." "How long?" Marcus said. "Since 10 this morning. We need bus power for the diagnostics." "Uh-huh." Nathan tilted his head. "And she's been doing that the whole time." "Doing what?" "That." Nathan lifted one finger. "Listen." And for the first time in 4 hours, 12 engineers and 1 CEO stood in Hangar 6 and did not look at a screen. The APU hummed, steady, same as it had all day. "I don't hear anything," Victoria said. "No, ma'am. You wouldn't." Nathan's head tilted the other way. "It's not in the note. It's in the gap. Every 4 seconds, give or take, there's a little hitch, like she's catching her breath." Marcus said, "That's load cycling. That's completely norm." "Sure," Nathan said. "If something's cycling." Silence. "What's cycling?" Nathan said. Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Victoria turned her head slowly and looked at her lead engineer, and something happened in her face that nobody in that hangar had ever seen before, and it was very small, and it was the first crack. "Marcus," she said, "what's cycling?" "I'd have to pull the load report." "You've had 11,000 pages for 4 hours." "Ms. Sterling." "What is cycling on my airplane, Marcus?" Marcus said, "I don't know." Nathan bent down. The hangar held its breath because for 1 second, every single person in that building thought he was reaching for the 50. He picked up his toolbox instead, stood up, left the money on the floor. "Give me 5 minutes," he said. Victoria Sterling laughed. It was not a nice laugh. It was the laugh of a woman who had been swung at and had decided right then that she was going to swing back with everything she had because that was the only thing she had ever been taught to do with a bad afternoon. "5 minutes," she said. "Yes, ma'am." 12 engineers, 4 hours, 11,000 pages, and you want 5 minutes. "I don't want 'em," Nathan said. "I'm asking for 'em." "Why should I give them to you?" "Because it's 3:22, Nathan said, "and you've got nothing else to do till 3:27. Somebody in the back, Nathan never found out who said, "Oh," very quietly. Victoria's eyes narrowed. And then she smiled, and Derek Voss, who had known her 9 years, felt his stomach drop because he'd seen that smile in boardrooms, and it had never once been survived. "All right," she said. "Let's make it interesting." "Vic," Derek said. "Mr. Cole, do you know what I do for a living?" "You own the company." "I bet," Victoria said. "That's what I do. I have bet on 11 things in my career that everyone told me were impossible, and I have won 9 of them, and the 2 I lost cost me $9 million, and I paid both in 24 hours because I pay. Do you understand?" "I hear you. So here's my bet." She turned to face the hangar. She raised her voice, and every phone in that building came out, and later there would be 9 separate videos of it, and one of them would be watched 41 million times. If this man, Victoria Sterling said, fixes in 5 minutes what 12 engineers could not fix in 4 hours. She turned back. "I will give him $5 million. The hangar made a sound like a wave hitting rock. Derek said, "Victoria." "On camera," she said. "Witnessed. Legally binding. $5 million wired inside a week." Marcus said, "This is insane." "Yes," Victoria agreed pleasantly. "It is. It's also free money, Marcus, because in 5 minutes and 1 second I'm going to hand this man his $50, and he's going to drive back across the field, and you and I are going to have a very different conversation about the 11,000 pages." She looked at Nathan. Well, Nathan Cole stood there with his father's toolbox in his hand. He thought about $1,100. He thought about 14 days. He thought about Ray on an upturned bucket at 5 in the morning for 5 weeks with no check. He thought about a $35 field trip to the science center. He thought about a 7-year-old girl saying anybody can fly one. Only some people can make it fly again after it stops. $5 million. And then he thought about something else, and it made the back of his neck go cold, and he didn't know why yet. "What's cycling, ma'am?" he said. "I've got a question first." "Of course you do." "If I lose," Nathan said, "what do you get?" The hangar went quiet again. Victoria blinked. "What?" "A bet's 2 ways," Nathan said. "You put up $5 million. What am I putting up?" "Nothing." "You have nothing." "Then it ain't a bet," Nathan said. "It's charity with an audience. And ma'am, no offense, but I already didn't pick up your 50. Nobody laughed. Victoria Sterling stared at him, and something moved behind her eyes, some cold, fast calculating thing that had built a $2 billion company out of a garage in 9 years, and for the first time that whole miserable day she was interested. "Fine," she said quietly. "You lose, and you walk out of my hangar, and you tell every person you meet for the rest of your life that Aurelia Aviation was right and you were wrong. Publicly. On camera. Right now." "Vic," Derek said. Done, Nathan said. Done, done. Just like that. Ma'am, Nathan said. If I'm wrong, I ought to say so. That's not a bet either. That's just Tuesday. And Victoria Sterling, God help her, almost laughed for real. Marcus, she said. Start the timer. So, Marcus pulled out his phone. His hands weren't quite steady, and he'd think about that for years. 5 minutes, he said. On my mark. Nathan set his toolbox down 40 feet from the aircraft. He didn't open it. You're not gonna need tools, Derek said. Not yet. What are you gonna need? Quiet, Nathan said. Marcus said mark. The timer started. 4:52. Nathan didn't move. He stood absolutely still with his eyes half closed and his head turned slightly to the left. And 40 feet away, the APU hummed, and after 8 seconds, somebody in the back whispered, "Is he praying?" And somebody else laughed, and Victoria Sterling said without turning around, "Shut up," in a voice that ended the laughing in that hangar for the rest of the afternoon. 4:31. He started walking, not toward the airplane. Around it, wide, slow counterclockwise, one hand out at his side like a man walking through a dark house. "He's doing a walk-around," Marcus said. "We did 4 walk-arounds." "You did 4 inspections?" Samantha said. Marcus turned. "Excuse me." "You looked," Samantha said. "He's listening." 3:58. Nathan stopped near the left wing root, put his palm flat on the skin of the aircraft, held it there. "Ma'am," he said without turning around. "When did this airplane last fly?" "Friday," Victoria said. "Where from?" "Teterboro." "Who flew it?" "What does that?" "Who flew it, ma'am?" Derek said. "I did. I brought it back Friday night." Nathan's hand stayed flat on the aluminum. "Anything funny on the flight?" "No. Nothing at all." "It was 90 minutes in clear air," Derek said. "It was the most boring flight of my life." "Huh," Nathan said, and he took his hand off the airplane, and he looked at Derek Voss for the first time for about a second and a half, and Derek Voss would remember that second and a half in a federal courtroom 14 months later. 3:20. Nathan crouched at the main gear, didn't touch anything, just looked head down at the level of the wheel. "Mr. Cole," Victoria said, "the fault is in the engine control software." "Yes, ma'am, that's what it's telling you." "That's what it is." "No, ma'am." He stood up. "That's what it's telling you. Those are different things." "Explain that." "My daughter tells me her stomach hurts on Tuesdays," Nathan said. "She's got a spelling test on Tuesdays. Her stomach's not lying. Her stomach's just not the problem." 2:47. He walked to the right side, ducked under, came up under the wing near the flap track, and stood there staring up into the shadow. Nobody in that hangar was talking now. Victoria Sterling had her arms crossed and her jaw set, and she was watching him with an expression that Samantha Hayes, standing 4 feet away, could not read at all. 2:12. Nathan said, "Somebody kill the APU." Marcus said, "We need bus." "Marcus," Victoria said, "kill it." The APU spooled down, and the hangar went silent. Really silent. The kind of silent a building that size only gets a few times in its life. Nathan stood under that wing with his eyes shut. 1:44. "Again," he said. "Start it. You just start it." The APU lit, spooled up, and Nathan Cole opened his eyes and said very quietly, "There you are." 1:30. He walked back to his toolbox, opened it, took out one thing, a flashlight. Not a good one. A $12 flashlight with tape on the barrel. "That's it," Derek said. "That's the tool." "Mister," Nathan said, "the tool's been here the whole time. I'm just bringing a light to it." 111. He went up the air stair, turned right at the top, not toward the cockpit, which is where every single engineer in that building had spent 4 hours, and knelt down in the aisle at row 2. "What is he doing?" Marcus said. "He's in the cabin," Derek said. "The fault's in the engines." 052. Nathan pulled up a floor panel. 044. "Mr. Cole," Victoria called. 40 seconds. Nothing. 031. 30. The flashlight beam moved under the floor. Steady. Slow. Not searching. Confirming. 019. Samantha Hayes realized she had both hands pressed over her mouth and did not remember putting them there. 011. 10 seconds, Marcus said, and there was something ugly and relieved in his voice. 006. Nathan's voice came out of the airplane flat and calm and carrying all the way across that hangar. "Ma'am?" 004. "Come look at this." 000. Marcus said, "Time." And nobody heard him because Victoria Sterling was already walking toward the air stair. She climbed up. Derek came behind her. Samantha came behind Derek, and then one at a time. So did 9 of the 12 engineers, because whatever was happening in that airplane, nobody wanted to be the last to know. Nathan was on his knees in the aisle, with the floor panel leaning against the seat frame. He had the flashlight in his left hand, and he wasn't touching anything with his right. "Don't step past me," he said. Victoria stopped. "What am I looking at? Come here, get down on my level." And Victoria Sterling, in a $4,000 coat, got down on her knees on the floor of her own airplane next to a man in a canvas jacket with coal on the pocket. He put the light on it. Under the floor, in a bundle of harnesses zip-tied along a channel, there was a bracket. And on that bracket sat a small mechanical unit about the size of a paperback book with a rod coming out of one end. "Flight control actuator interface," Nathan said. "It's a linkage. It's dumb. It doesn't think. It just moves and reports." So look at the bracket." Victoria looked. "I don't." "Ma'am." Nathan moved the light 2 inches. "Count the bolt holes." There were 4. There were 3 bolts. "There's a bolt missing," Victoria said. "No, ma'am," Nathan said. "There's a bolt moved." And he put the light on the 4th hole, and it wasn't empty. And Victoria Sterling leaned in, and her breath stopped in her throat. The bolt was there. It was in the wrong hole. It was in a hole that was not a mounting hole, one hole over in slotted adjustment travel, seated just tight enough to hold canted maybe 4 degrees off true. The whole unit sat crooked by less than the width of a nickel. "That's it," Derek said from behind them. "That's it. That's a fraction of an inch." Mr. Nathan said, "That's a fraction of an inch on a part that reports its own position to the engine computers 70 times a second. And it's been reporting a lie since Friday. And every time the load cycles that unit shifts about a millimeter in that slot, and the computer sees a control surface move that didn't move, and it says that's impossible, and it locks out both channels because it's built to assume the worst, and then it clears because the unit settles back." He turned his head and looked at Marcus, who was standing in the aisle with his phone still in his hand and all the blood gone out of his face. "That's your 4-second hitch," Nathan said. "That's what's cycling." Nobody said anything. "Your computer's not broken," Nathan said. "Your computer's the only thing in this whole airplane that's been telling you the truth all day. It's been screaming there's something wrong for 4 hours. You just kept asking it where, and it doesn't know where. It's not built to know where. That's your job." Victoria Sterling, on her knees on the floor of a $60 million airplane, said in a voice that did not sound like hers, "How long will it take to fix?" 90 seconds, Nathan said. "It's 1 bolt." It took him 81. He came down the air stair, wiping his hands on a rag, and said, "Fire it." And Marcus, who had a doctorate and 11,000 pages and 4 hours and a house in Bay Ridge, climbed into the cockpit of that Gulfstream because there was nobody else, and he could not stand there another second. The right engine lit. It caught and rose and rolled up into a clean, steady, beautiful howl that filled Hangar 6 wall to wall. Then the left. No fault, no lockout, no lights, just an airplane working. Somebody started clapping and then stopped because nobody else did. The whole hangar just stood there in the noise, 12 engineers and a COO and a CEO, and one young woman with both hands over her mouth and tears running down her face that she was not remotely aware of. Victoria Sterling stood in front of that airplane and did not move for 11 seconds. Then she turned around. Nathan Cole was standing 40 feet back with his toolbox in his hand, and on the concrete between them, exactly where it had landed, was a $50 bill nobody had touched. She walked to him. The hangar parted. She stopped 3 feet away, and this woman, who had never in her adult life apologized to anyone, opened her mouth, and Nathan Cole said, "Don't fly it." Victoria stopped. "What? Ma'am?" His voice was very quiet and very level, and there was something in it that hadn't been there all afternoon. "Don't fly this airplane." Derek Voss laughed out loud. "You just fixed it." "I fixed a bolt," Nathan said. "You won $5 million, Victoria said slowly. "You understand that. You just won. It's on 9 cameras. It's done. Whatever you're about to say, you don't have to say it, you've already won." "Yes, ma'am." "Then take the money and go home." "I can't." "Why not?" Nathan Cole looked at her, and for the first time since he'd walked into that building, he didn't look calm. "Because that bolt didn't walk one hole over by itself," he said. The hangar went so quiet that the tick of cooling metal was the loudest thing in it. "Somebody put it there," Nathan said. "It's torqued. It's seated. It's not backed out. It's installed, ma'am. Installed wrong on purpose by a hand that knew that slot was there. And you don't get to that panel by accident. You get to it on your knees with a light at row 2 after somebody's put the air stair up." Victoria's mouth was open. No sound was coming out. "And here's the part I can't get past," Nathan said. "Whoever did it wrong on purpose in a way that stops the airplane on the ground. So they saved me." "No, ma'am." Nathan shook his head slowly. "No. A man who wants to hurt you doesn't leave a note. A man who wants to hurt you and doesn't want to get caught leaves a small thing where the big thing is. I don't understand." "Ma'am," Nathan Cole said, "in 22 years I have never once found a machine with one thing wrong with it." He turned and looked at that airplane sitting there, idling perfect, gorgeous $60 million of it. "That bolt is a decoy," he said. "Somebody wanted 12 engineers spending 4 hours in a software file. And ma'am, the only reason to want that—" He stopped. Derek Voss said very evenly, "Victoria, this man is a mechanic from a shed." And Nathan Cole did not take his eyes off the airplane. "The only reason to want that," he said, "is if you don't want anybody standing where I'm standing right now." Victoria Sterling turned her head and looked at her Gulfstream. And behind her, unnoticed, unremarked, Derek Voss reached into his coat pocket and took out his phone. Nathan Cole heard the phone come out of Derek Voss's coat. He didn't turn around. "Ma'am," he said, "tell your COO to put that away." Derek's thumb stopped moving. "Excuse me?" "I said put it away." Victoria turned. "Derek, what are you doing?" "I'm calling the FAA," Derek said, "because a man just told a room full of witnesses that our aircraft was sabotaged, and if that's true, we have a mandatory reporting obligation inside 24 hours. And if it's false, we have a defamation problem, and either way, somebody in this building needs to act like an adult." "Put it in your pocket," Nathan said. "Who are you two?" "Mister, I don't know you," Nathan said. "I met you 11 minutes ago. I'm not saying you did anything. I'm saying that in about 10 seconds, somebody in this hangar is going to make a phone call, and I don't know which one of you it is, and neither does she. And until we do, everybody's phone goes in a pocket." The hangar had 31 people in it. Every one of them was holding a phone. "That's paranoid," Derek said. "Yes, sir, it is." "You realize how insane you sound?" "Yes, sir." "Then—" "I also found the bolt," Nathan said. Derek's mouth closed. Victoria hadn't moved. She was still looking at the airplane, at $60 million of it, idling clean and perfect, and she said without turning her head, "Everybody put your phones down." "Vic." "Down, Derek." Nobody moved. "On the toolbox," Victoria said, and pointed at Nathan's father's dented red Snap-on sitting on the concrete 40 feet away. All of them. On the box. Right now. Victoria, you cannot seriously... Marcus, Victoria said. Yours first. And Marcus Reed, who had a doctorate and a mortgage and 11,000 pages of nothing, walked across that hangar floor in front of everyone and set his phone down on a mechanic's toolbox. Then the young one with the hair product. Then 2 more. Then 11 more. Derek Voss was the last. He stood there for a long flat second with his phone in his hand and his jaw working, and then he crossed the floor and set it face down on the box with a click. And when he came back, he was smiling. And it was a smile Nathan had seen 100 times on 100 customers standing next to a car they'd wrecked and were about to lie about. Happy, Derek said. No, sir, Nathan said. Not even a little. Victoria Sterling walked to the air stair and stopped and put her hand on the rail and stood there. Kill the engines, she said. Ma'am, kill them. The howl came down, wound out, died into a ticking, cooling silence, and Hangar 6 was quiet again, and it was a worse quiet than before. Victoria turned around. Mr. Cole? Ma'am, I need you to say it in plain English, not mechanic, not metaphor, plain English in front of every person in this building, because I am about to make a decision I cannot take back. Nathan set his flashlight down on the floor. Somebody got into your airplane, he said. They went in through the cabin on their knees at row 2 with a light. They pulled a panel that has no reason to be pulled unless you're chasing a fault, and there wasn't a fault to chase. And they moved one bolt, one hole over into a slot that a man has to know is there. And then they put the panel back, and they put the screws back, and they torqued the screws to spec, ma'am, all 11 of them, because I checked, and that is the part that I want you to hear. Why is that the part? Because a thief's in a hurry, Nathan said. A vandal's angry. Somebody who torques 11 screws to spec on the way out isn't in a hurry and isn't angry. That's a professional. That's a man doing a job. Somebody in the back said quietly, Jesus. When? Victoria said. Friday night. Saturday at the latest. How do you know? Because the wear pattern in that slot says the unit's been shifting about a millimeter 70 times a second under load for 4 to 6 days, Nathan said. It's polished. You can see it. It's bright metal in there, and everything around it's gray. Ma'am, aluminum doesn't lie. It doesn't have a reason to. Victoria's eyes came up. And you're telling me it stopped the airplane on the ground on purpose? Yes, ma'am. Which makes no sense. No, ma'am. It makes perfect sense, and that's what's scaring me. Explain it. Nathan took a breath. If I wanted you dead, he said, I'd do something to your airplane that works fine on the ground and quits at 30,000 feet. That's not hard. That's a bad afternoon and $40 in parts. Nobody in that building was breathing. And if I did that, Nathan said, and I was a professional, I would be thinking about the one thing that could ruin me. And the one thing that could ruin me is somebody with a light and a bad attitude crawling around under the floor of that airplane before you fly it. So I'd give 'em something to find, Nathan said. Somewhere else. I'd hang a big shiny wrong thing in the software, ma'am, because software's a maze. And I'd put 12 smart men in that maze for 4 hours, and I'd let them exhaust themselves, and by hour 5 they'd sign off on intermittent fault-cleared aircraft serviceable, because that's what tired men do, and then you would get on my airplane and you would go to Zurich. And I wouldn't get there. No, ma'am. Victoria Sterling stood very still. You're saying the bolt was supposed to be found. I'm saying the bolt was supposed to be chased, Nathan said. Not found. Chased. A man who wants a thing found puts it where you'll trip over it. This wasn't in the way of anything. It just made noise. And ma'am, it made noise in a language your computer speaks and your people don't, Marcus Reed said in a voice that had lost every ounce of its earlier weight. That's the diagnostic would have never located a mechanical bias in an actuator interface. It'd throw a channel fault. It'd throw a channel fault forever. Yes, sir, Nathan said. It did, for 4 hours. And we'd have cleared it, Marcus said. He wasn't talking to Nathan anymore. He was talking to the floor. God, we'd have cleared it, At hour 6, I was going to log it as a nuisance lockout and swap the FADEC and call it done. Marcus, Victoria said. I had the paperwork open, Vic. Samantha Hayes had not said a word in 9 minutes. She said one now. Row 2. Everybody looked at her. What? Victoria said. He said row 2. Samantha's face had gone a color that didn't have a name. Ms. Sterling, who sits at row 2. The silence that followed had a physical weight to it. I do, Victoria said. You always do, Samantha said. Left side facing forward every single flight for 4 years. There's a plug for your laptop at that seat, and Karen had it moved there in 2022 because you complained about the Samantha. And I'm the one who filed the MOD request, Samantha said. It's in the maintenance history. It's public in the maintenance history. Anybody with a login can see that that seat was modified for you specifically. Nathan Cole closed his eyes for a second. Ma'am, he said. Who has a login? 400 people, Victoria said. Who has a badge for this hangar after hours? Victoria didn't answer. Ms. Sterling, Nathan said. Who has a badge for this hangar after hours? 19. Derek Voss said. Everybody turned. Derek shrugged, and his voice was reasonable and easy and helpful. 19 people. I know because I signed the list. 12 engineers, 3 fuelers, Karen, me, Vic, and the night supervisor. 19. He spread his hands. So can we all stop pretending this is a movie? 19 people, all of whom have worked here for years, all of whom passed a federal background check. Somebody bumped a bracket. Somebody's kid did a bad job on an install 8 weeks ago in Savannah. This is a manufacturing defect and a very theatrical afternoon. The screws were torqued to spec, Nathan said. Screws are supposed to be torqued to spec. Yes, sir. By the man who put them in at the factory, not by the man who took them out on Friday. You can't tell the difference, mister. Nathan said, I've been taking screws out of things since I was 9 years old. The paint's broken on all 11. Factory seals cracked and recracked. You can see the witness marks doubled. It's the plainest thing in that airplane, and every one of your engineers walked past it 4 times today because they were looking at a screen. Derek's smile stayed exactly where it was. Vic, he said, you want to bet the company on a man who can read screws. And Victoria Sterling said, I already bet $5 million on him, Derek, and he won it in 4 minutes and 52 seconds. She turned to Nathan. What do you want to do? Ma'am? You said don't fly it. Fine. I'm not flying it. What do you want to do? Nathan looked at that airplane for a long moment. I want to open it up, he said. Open what up? The engines. Marcus said, you can't. I want to pull both cowlings, Nathan said. I want to borescope both hot sections. I want to open the fuel manifolds, and I want to look at every line and every clamp and every B-nut on this aircraft with my own 2 eyes. That's a 40-hour job, Marcus said. Then we better start. That's Ms. Sterling. That's a heavy maintenance event. That's a shop visit. You need a hangar slot and a rated crew, and... You have a rated crew, Victoria said. There's 12 of them standing here. We're not A and Ps. We're... Marcus stopped. Say the rest of that sentence, Marcus, Victoria said. Marcus Reed stood in the middle of Hangar 6 in front of his boss and 29 colleagues and said quietly, We're not mechanics. No, Victoria said. You're not. And then she said the thing that Samantha Hayes would think about for the rest of her life. He is. Nathan Cole didn't move for a second. Then he said, I'll need 2 men. Take 12. 2, ma'am. 12 gets in the way. He looked around the hangar. You. Samantha's head snapped up. Me. You called me. I don't, Mr. Cole, I do systems integration. I've never turned a wrench on. Do you know what a B-nut is? Yes. Do you know what it feels like when one's wrong? Samantha opened her mouth, closed it. My dad had me on his back under a combine when I was 11, she said. He used to make me close my eyes and tell him which line was leaking. There you go, Nathan said. That was a combine. Ma'am, it's all the same church. Different pews. He turned. Him. He was pointing at Marcus Reed. Marcus went white. No, he said. Yes, sir. You want me. I'm the reason I sat here for 4 hours and You had the paperwork open, Nathan said. And you told the truth about it in front of your boss 30 seconds ago, when you didn't have to, and nobody in this room would have ever known. Mister, I don't need a man who's never been wrong. There's no such animal. I need a man who says so. Marcus Reed stood there with his eyes shining and his jaw locked and did not trust himself to speak. You in, Nathan said. Yeah. Then go get me a light, a real one. Dunk. It was 6:40 in the evening when Nathan called Ray Dooley. Where are you? Ray said. Still across the field. It's dark out, Nathan. I know it. You've been over there 5 hours. You told me 20 minutes. Ray. Nathan pinched the bridge of his nose. I need you to go get Lily. Silence on the line. From Cheryl's. From Cheryl's. She's got her till 7. I'm not going to make 7. Nathan, what in the hell is going on over there? Nathan looked back through the glass at that airplane, at the cowlings coming off under work lights, at a woman in a $4,000 coat, with her sleeves shoved up to the elbow, holding a flashlight for a man on a ladder. I don't know yet, he said. That's not an answer. It's the only one I got. Ray was quiet for a second. You want me to take her back to your place or mine? Nathan hesitated. He didn't know why he hesitated. Later, much later, he'd think about that hesitation the way you think about a shadow you saw out the corner of your eye and didn't turn around for. Yours, he said. Mine, Nathan. I got 1 bedroom and a cat that hates children. Yours, Ray. Another pause. All right, Ray said slowly. Yeah, okay. Mine. Ray? Yeah. Don't tell anybody where she's at. Who the hell would I tell? Nobody, Nathan said. That's kind of my point. Bye. At 8:15, Nathan Cole was lying on his back on a creeper under the right engine of a Gulfstream G65. With his arm buried to the shoulder in the accessories section, and Victoria Sterling was sitting on an upturned 5-gallon bucket 4 feet away. She had not sat on a bucket in 20 years. Talk to me, she said. About what? Anything. My head's very loud right now and I would like it to be quieter. Nathan grunted, shifted, reached deeper. Your engineers all right? They're terrified. Of what? Of me, Victoria said. Of the FAA. Of being the guy who missed it. She rubbed her eyes with the heel of her hand. Of you a little. Of me. Mr. Cole, you walked into my hangar in a canvas coat and made 12 of the best engineers in the state look like children in 4 minutes and 52 seconds. On camera. Yes, of you. Nathan didn't say anything for a bit. For what it's worth, he said, they're not children. They looked like children. Ma'am, that's not fair, and I think you know it. Victoria's head came up. I'm sorry. Those men have got a problem, Nathan said, and it ain't intelligence. Every one of them could outmath me 100 to 1. Marcus knows things about that engine. I will never know if I live to be 90. He shifted the light. Their problem is that somewhere along the line, somebody taught them that the screen is the airplane. So when the screen says, I don't know, they hear nobody knows. That's not stupid. That's just what they were taught. By who? Nathan slid out from under the engine and looked at her. He didn't say anything. Victoria Sterling looked back at him for about 4 seconds. By me, she said. Ma'am, I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She laughed and there was nothing in it. God, I built it. I built the whole thing. Data over instinct. It's on the wall in the lobby. I put it there. I had it engraved. She stared at the concrete. There's a video from 2019 of me telling a room of 200 engineers that the age of the wrench was over. Well, Nathan said. "You were wrong." "Yes. That happens." "Not to me, ma'am," Nathan said with respect. "It happened to you at 3:18 this afternoon in front of 31 people, and it's on 9 phones." Victoria Sterling laughed. Actually laughed. It surprised her more than it surprised him. "You're not what I expected," she said. "What did you expect?" "I expected you to pick up the 50. Nathan reached for a rag and wiped his hands. "I almost did," he said. Victoria's head came up. "You almost did." "Ma'am, I'm 41 days late on my rent, and I got 14 days before they lock my father's shop, and I got a 7-year-old who needs $35 for a field trip Friday, and I've got $112 in the bank." He folded the rag. "I looked at that 50, and I thought that's the field trip and a tank of gas. That's exactly what I thought, right there in front of everybody." Victoria stared at him. "Then why didn't you—" Nathan thought about it a while. "Because Lily'd ask me where I got it," he said. Victoria Sterling sat on a bucket in her own hangar at 8:30 at night and could not make a sound come out of her mouth. "Mr. Cole?" "Nathan's fine." "Nathan." She stopped, started again. "I want to say something and I'm not good at it, so I'm going to do it badly." "Yes, ma'am." "What I did this afternoon was the worst thing I've done in my professional life." "It's not in the top 10, ma'am." "Don't. I'm serious." Nathan looked up. "You dropped $50 and said a mean thing. You know what's worse than that? Every man in this hangar who laughed, and every one of them still standing here, and they're going to go home tonight and not think about it once. You'll think about it for a year. That's the difference between you and them, and it's the only reason I'm still standing here at 8:30 at night working for free. I'm paying you $5 million. "Ma'am, I haven't seen a nickel of it, and until I do, it's free, and you'll notice I ain't stopped." Victoria Sterling looked at him. "Why haven't you stopped?" And Nathan Cole said, "Because you got on your knees." "What?" "In the airplane, when I told you to get down on my level." He shrugged. $4,000 coat, 30 people watching. You got right down on the floor of that airplane next to a man everybody in the room had just laughed at. He turned back to the engine. "Ma'am, I've had rich people in my shop for 20 years. Not one of them ever got down on the floor." At 9:51, Marcus Reed said, "Nathan." There was something in his voice. Nathan came off the creeper fast. "What?" "Left engine, fuel manifold. I need you to look at this and tell me I'm crazy." Nathan crossed the hangar in 9 strides and went up the ladder, and Marcus moved the light. Nathan Cole looked at it for a long, long time. He didn't say anything at all. "Nathan," Victoria said from the floor. "Nathan." Nothing. "Nathan." He came down the ladder slow. His face had changed. It had gone somewhere else entirely, and Samantha Hayes, who had known this man for 6 hours, took a step back from him without deciding to. "Ma'am," he said, "I need you to sit down." "I'm not sitting down." "Ms. Sterling." "I own it," Victoria said. "Say it standing up." Nathan wiped his hands, set the rag down. Didn't pick it back up. "There's a fuel line on your number 1 engine," he said. "It runs from the manifold to the nozzle bank. It's stainless. It's got a braided sheath on it. Under the sheath, about 4 inches back from the B-nut, somebody has taken about 60% of the wall out of that line." Nobody moved. "How?" Victoria said. "Chemically," Marcus said, and his voice cracked in the middle of the word. There's no tool marks. It's not scored. It's etched. Somebody put something on it and let it sit, and then washed it and put the sheath back." "What does that do?" Victoria said. Neither of them answered. "What does that do?" Nathan Cole said, "Nothing. Nothing. On the ground. Nothing. Idle pressure's low. Cold. It'd hold forever." He looked up at her. "Ma'am, that line sees full pressure and 400 degrees at climb power. It'd have gone about 90 seconds after rotation." Victoria Sterling did not move. And then you'd have raw fuel spraying into the hot section of an engine at 800 feet with the gear still coming up, Nathan said. Ma'am, I'm not going to dress it up. There is no version of that where anybody walks away. Chapter. The hangar was completely silent. Somewhere out on the field, a truck was backing up, and the beeping came through the walls, small and ordinary and obscene. Samantha Hayes said, "Oh my God." Victoria Sterling turned around very slowly and looked at her airplane. "Say the rest of it," she said. "Ma'am, you said a decoy this afternoon. You said the bolt was a decoy, and you said the only reason for a decoy is to keep somebody from standing where you were standing. Say the rest of it, Nathan." Nathan Cole said, "Whoever cut that line needed you to fly Wednesday, and whoever moved that bolt needed 12 engineers in a software file for 4 hours, so nobody'd pull a cowling. Ma'am, that's not 2 people. That's 1 person doing 1 job with 2 hands. And they knew your schedule," Nathan said. "They knew you were flying Wednesday. They knew you sit at row 2. They knew the mod request was in the maintenance history. They knew the slot in that bracket was there. They knew which line to cut and where the sheath goes back. Ma'am, they knew the torque spec on 11 screws." Victoria Sterling closed her eyes. "It's somebody in my company," she said. "It's somebody in your company," Nathan said, "who has a badge for this hangar after hours. 19 people. 19 people." And from behind them, in a voice that was perfectly calm and perfectly reasonable, Derek Voss said, 18. I'm one of them, and I was in Teterboro Friday night, which about 100 people saw. Nathan Cole turned around. Derek was standing at the edge of the light with his hands in his coat pockets. "You flew it back Friday night," Nathan said. "That's right." "You said it was the most boring flight of your life." "It was." Nathan said, "You flew an airplane home Friday night with a bracket in it that had been shifting a millimeter 70 times a second for 4 to 6 days, and you didn't get a single lockout on a system built to lock out." Derek's face did not change. So either that bracket got moved after you landed," Nathan said, "in which case somebody was in this hangar Friday night after you parked it." He stopped. "Or," Victoria said. Nathan didn't look away from Derek Voss. "Or the man flying it knew exactly which fault to reset on the way home," he said, "and how many times, and didn't write down a one of them." The silence went on a very long time. Then Derek Voss laughed, and it was easy and warm, and he shook his head like a man watching a child be adorable. "Vic," he said, 9 years. 9 years, and you're going to stand in a hangar at 10 o'clock at night and let a man who fixes crop dusters accuse me of attempted murder because of a reset log." Victoria Sterling didn't say anything. That was the thing Derek noticed. That was the thing that got through. Derek, she said, "where's your phone?" "On his toolbox, where you told me to put it." "Yes," Victoria said. "That's what I've been thinking about for the last hour." "Meaning what?" "Meaning it's been sitting on that toolbox for 6 hours," Victoria said, "and you haven't asked for it back once." Nobody moved. Derek Voss's face went through something, then something fast and small, and it was gone almost before it happened, and 3 people saw it, and 2 of them would never be sure. "That's what we're doing now," he said. "That's the standard. Derek, 9 years, Victoria, 9 years. I was there when it was a garage in Sylmar. I put my house up, my house in 2018 when the bridge loan fell through, and you were 48 hours from payroll. I put my house up, and you know it, and everybody in this room knows it, and now some—" "I never asked you to do that," Victoria said quietly. Derek stopped. "What?" "I never asked you to put your house up," Victoria said. "You did it and you told me after. And you've told me about it, Derek. I want to say maybe 200 times since." She looked at him. "You've told me about it in front of investors. You told the Journal about it." "Because it's true." "Yes," Victoria said. "It is. It's true. And it's the single most generous thing anyone has ever done for me. And I have never once been able to shake the feeling that you did it so you'd have something to say." Derek Voss stood there in a hangar at 10 o'clock at night with his mouth slightly open. "You know what?" he said. No, I'm not doing this." "Derek, I'm not standing here." He was already walking. "I'm going to my car, and in the morning I'm going to call legal, and Victoria, I want you to think very hard tonight about what happens to this company at 8 a.m. when it comes out that the CEO ran a witch hunt in a hangar with an unlicensed contractor 48 hours before the Kessler close." "Your phone's on the toolbox," Nathan Cole said. Derek stopped walking. He turned around, and for the first time all night, the reasonable man was gone out of his face, and what was standing there instead looked at Nathan Cole across 40 feet of concrete, with an expression that Samantha Hayes would describe to a federal agent 3 weeks later as the only time in my life I have ever been afraid of a person in a suit. "Yeah," Derek Voss said. "I guess it is." He walked over. He picked it up. He put it in his pocket. And on the way out, he stopped beside Nathan. "Cole, right?" "Yes, sir." "You got a shop across the field?" "That's right." "Huh." Derek nodded slowly, looking out at the dark. "My dad had a shop. Little transmission place in Bakersfield. Worked in it 41 years, hands like yours." He smiled. "Died broke. You know what he had at the end, a shop full of tools and a lot of principles." Nathan didn't say anything. 61 years old, and he's crying at a kitchen table because he can't cover a root canal, Derek said. "And you know why? Because men like my father spend their whole lives being honest for free, and men like me watch that, and we learn." He straightened his coat. "So take the 5 million, Cole. Take it and go home. Because I promise you, nobody is ever going to give it to you twice." And he walked out of Hangar 6. Victoria Sterling stood there a long time after the door closed. "Nathan." "Ma'am." "Was that a confession?" "No, ma'am." "Then what was it?" Nathan Cole watched the door. "That was a man," he said slowly, "who just told us why." They called the FBI at 11:04 p.m. They did it from Samantha's phone on speaker, standing in a circle on the hangar floor. Victoria, Nathan Marcus. Samantha, and the woman on the other end, took the report in a voice so flat and unimpressed that it was almost comforting, right up until the moment Marcus said the words chemically thinned fuel line and scheduled to fly at 0600, and the flatness went out of her voice entirely. "Ma'am," she said, "is the aircraft secure?" "It's in my hangar." "Who has access to that hangar right now?" Victoria opened her mouth and closed it. 19 people, she said. "Ma'am," the agent said, "nobody touches that airplane. Nobody. Not your people. I've got a team rolling from Newark, and they will be there inside 2 hours, and until then I want every human being who is not law enforcement out of that building. I've got a mechanic under the left engine right now. Get him out. He's the reason you're getting this call." There was a pause on the line. "What's his name?" the agent said. Victoria Sterling looked across the hangar at a man in a canvas coat with Cole stitched over the pocket in thread that had faded from red to pink. "Nathan Cole," she said. At 11:40, Nathan sat in his truck in the Aurelia parking lot with the engine off and his hands on the wheel, and he did not start it for a long time. Then he took out his phone and called Ray. It rang, and rang, and rang. Nathan sat up straighter. It rang. "Come on, Ray." It rang. And on the 8th ring, Ray Dooley picked up, and his voice was thick with sleep and annoyance, and absolutely blessedly normal. "It's midnight, you lunatic." Nathan let out a breath that emptied him all the way down. "She okay?" "She's asleep on my couch with my cat on her head." "The cat loves her, Nathan. 40 years that animal's hated everything that draws breath, and this kid shows up with a granola bar and—" "Ray?" "Yeah. Anybody come by?" "Come by, Nathan. It's Tuesday in January. Nobody's come by my house since the Clinton administration." A pause. "Why?" Nathan looked at the hangar. At the lights. At the $60 million airplane sitting inside it, that had been built to kill a woman 90 seconds after takeoff. "Keep her home tomorrow," he said. "From school. From school." "Nathan," Ray said, and all the sleep was gone out of him now. "What is happening?" And Nathan Cole said, "I don't know yet." But he did. That was the thing. Sitting in that parking lot with his hands on the wheel at 20 till midnight, some part of Nathan Cole already knew the way. You know a bearing's going 3 weeks before it goes, not from anything you can point to, just from a sound underneath the sound. Somebody had built a machine to kill Victoria Sterling. And at 3:18 that afternoon, in front of 31 witnesses and 9 cameras, a mechanic from across the field had walked in and taken it apart with a $12 flashlight. That machine hadn't stopped running. It had just gone looking for a different bolt to move. The FBI came in at 1:52 in the morning, and they did not look like the FBI. They looked like 6 tired people in windbreakers who had all been asleep 2 hours ago, and the one in front was a woman about 50 with reading glasses pushed up into her hair and a coffee she'd clearly bought at a gas station on Route 9. "Sterling." "That's me." "Dana Reyes, Newark Field Office." She didn't shake hands. She was already looking past Victoria at the airplane. "Who touched it?" "My engineers and him." Reyes looked at Nathan Cole. She looked at the canvas coat and the boots and the dented red toolbox sitting on the floor with a flashlight on top of it, and she said, "You're the mechanic." "Yes, ma'am." "Show me the line." "Ma'am, your people are going to want to photograph it before—" "My people are going to photograph it for the next 9 hours, Reyes said. "I want to see it now with my own eyes, because in about 4 hours I have to call a supervisor and ask him for a lot of money, and I would like to know whether I'm about to sound like an idiot." Nathan almost smiled. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "Bring a light." She was up the ladder 11 minutes. She didn't say a word the whole time. When she came down, she stood on the hangar floor with her hands on her hips and looked at the concrete for a long moment. "Okay," she said. "Okay," Victoria said. "Ms. Sterling, I've been doing this 23 years. I've worked 4 aviation cases." Reyes took her glasses out of her hair and put them in her pocket, which was apparently the thing she did instead of swearing. 3 were fraud. 1 was a guy who fell asleep. "And this is the first one where somebody actually did it," she said. "That's not a fuel leak. That's a device. That is a bomb with a 4-day fuse and no explosive in it, and whoever built it is very, very good, and I want to be extremely clear with you about something." "Go ahead." "He's not done," Reyes said. Victoria's chin came up. Meaning people who do this don't stop when it doesn't work. They stop when they're caught. Reyes looked around the hangar. Somebody spent a long time on this. Weeks. Access schedule, the seat, the maintenance history, the torque spec. That's not a temper. That's a project. And at 3:18 this afternoon, a man in a canvas coat walked in and blew up 11 weeks of work in 4 minutes and 52 seconds. Nobody said anything. So, Reyes said, turning to Nathan, "Mr. Cole, who knows what you found?" 31 people, Nathan said. 31. "There's 9 videos of it," Samantha said quietly. "One of them's on Reddit. It's got 400,000 views since 6 o'clock. Reyes closed her eyes. "The video's just the bet," Victoria said. "It's just the 50 and the 5 minutes. The line isn't in it. Ms. Sterling." Reyes said, "Your man went up a ladder at 9:50 at night in front of everybody and came down looking like he'd seen the devil. Somebody in that hangar knows what he found, and if that somebody is your guy, then he has known since 10 o'clock last night that the only thing standing between him and a federal indictment is a mechanic." She turned to Nathan. "Where's your family?" Nathan Cole went very still. "Mr. Cole, where's your family?" "I got a daughter," he said. "Where is she?" "With my guy Ray Dooley. He works for me." "Does anybody in this building know that name?" Nathan opened his mouth, and what came out was no. "You're sure?" I never said it, Nathan said. I called him from the parking lot at 20 till midnight. On your cell? Yes, ma'am. Reyes looked at him for a beat. Okay, she said. Get her, now, tonight, and don't take her home. 10. He drove to Ray's at 2:40 in the morning, doing 60 in a 40, because he could not make himself do anything else, and Ray met him at the door in a bathrobe with a baseball bat, which was the funniest and least funny thing Nathan had ever seen. She's fine, Ray said. First thing, she's fine. She's asleep. Nathan went past him into that little house and stood in the doorway of Ray Dooley's living room, and there was his daughter sideways across a couch, like she'd been thrown there 1 foot out from under a blanket that smelled like cat. And Nathan Cole put his hand over his mouth and stood there in the dark for about 10 seconds. Nathan, Ray said behind him, you gonna tell me? Somebody tried to kill a woman today, Nathan said. Ray didn't say anything. Somebody built it into the airplane, Nathan said. It was gonna go at 800 feet. And they built it careful, Ray. They built it so it'd look like the airplane did it to itself. And you found it. Yeah. With that. Ray nodded at the flashlight sticking out of Nathan's coat pocket. Yeah. Ray sat down heavy on the arm of a chair. Your daddy, he said, would have walked into that hangar and done the exact same thing, and then he'd have driven home and not told a soul, and the next morning he'd have been up at 4:15 worrying about rent. I know it. That's not a compliment, Nathan. Nathan looked at him. I know it, he said. Lily woke up in the truck. Dad? Hey, kiddo. She was upright in half a second the way kids are. Where are we? We're gonna stay at a hotel. A hotel? Yeah. Do they have the waffles? Nathan laughed. It came out of him wrong jagged, and he hoped she didn't hear it. I don't know. Maybe. Lily was quiet a minute. Then she said in an entirely different voice, Dad, are we in trouble? Nathan's hands tightened on the wheel. He had made a decision 4 years ago, standing in a kitchen with a note on the counter and a 3-year-old in the next room, and the decision was that he would not lie to her. Not about anything. Not once. Because he'd found out at 9 what it feels like when a grown-up you love turns out to have been managing you, and he'd promised himself she'd never feel that. Some, he said. How much? Some. Enough that I want you where I can see you. Lily thought about that. Is it money? She said. And Nathan Cole, driving at 3 in the morning with everything in the world, sitting in the passenger seat, said, No, kiddo, for once in our life, it ain't money. Oh. At 9:15 the next morning, Victoria Sterling stood in a conference room and told her board of directors that she was grounding the fleet. It took 40 minutes, and it was the worst 40 minutes of her career. And at minute 31, a man named Harold Kessler, 74 years old, worth $2 billion. The man in Zurich who thought women in aerospace were a marketing decision, said from a screen on the wall, Ms. Sterling, let me make sure I understand. You are asking me to delay a 9-figure acquisition because a mechanic found a bolt. Yes? A mechanic. His name is Nathan Cole, Mr. Kessler, and he found a fuel line that was going to kill me on Wednesday morning, so yes. The FBI has confirmed that the FBI has a team in my hangar right now. That's not what I asked. Victoria Sterling stood at the head of that table with 14 people looking at her. No, she said. They haven't confirmed it yet. So you have a mechanic's opinion. I have a mechanic's opinion. Kessler smiled. It was not a bad smile. It was worse than a bad smile. It was patient. Ms. Sterling, he said, I've been in this business 51 years. Do you know what I've learned? Companies don't die from sabotage. They die from stories about sabotage. He leaned back. You're going to walk out of that room and someone is going to leak it. And by Friday, the word Aurelia and the word sabotage are going to be married forever, and it will not matter one bit whether it's true. It's true. That is precisely what will not matter, Kessler said. I'll hold the deal open 72 hours. After that, I'm going to need this to be something other than a mechanic's opinion." The screen went dark, and in the silence that followed from the other end of the table, Derek Voss said gently, "Vic, I want to say something, and I want to say it in front of the board." Victoria didn't turn her head. "Say it." "I think you should take a leave." The room stopped. "I think you're exhausted," Derek said. "I think you've been running on 4 hours a night since October. I think you had a very frightening afternoon, and a man with an enormous amount of charisma told you a story that made sense of it, and I think, and I say this with 9 years of love. Victoria, I think you have not slept, and you are about to burn down a 9-figure deal over a bolt." "Derek, I'm not the enemy here." "Derek," Victoria said, "the FBI took your badge log at 4 this morning." Derek Voss's face didn't move. "I know," he said. "They took everyone's. They took yours first." "Because I'm the COO." "Yes," Victoria said. "That's what I keep telling myself." They found nothing. That was the thing that nobody had prepared her for. Nathan hadn't. Reyes hadn't. Victoria had spent the whole night in a kind of cold, electric certainty, and by 4 o'clock the next afternoon, Dana Reyes was standing in Hangar 6, saying words that Victoria Sterling could not make fit inside her head. "His badge doesn't put him here." What? Friday night, Voss badged out of the Teterboro FBO at 9:14 p.m., and his card doesn't touch this facility again until Monday at 8:02 a.m. Reyes flipped a page. Nobody's card does. Between 9 p.m. Friday and 6 a.m. Sunday, this hangar had exactly one entry. A fueler named Anthony Pruitt, 11:40 p.m. Friday, out at 11:52. 12 minutes, Nathan said. 12 minutes. "Ma'am, you can't cut that line in 12 minutes. "No," Reyes said, "you can't." "Then who?" "Mr. Cole." Reyes said, "There are 211 badge reads in this facility Friday, and every single one of them belongs to somebody who has an alibi and a reason to be here, and that is not a dead end. That's a signature." She took her glasses out of her hair. "Somebody who knows a torque spec knows a badge log. This guy didn't beat the system. He used it. He was in here on somebody's card, and I don't know whose yet, and until I do, I have nothing to arrest anybody with." "You've got the line," Victoria said. "I've got a damaged line and no fingerprints and no chemical residue because they washed it, and a defense attorney who is going to stand up in 9 months and say manufacturing defect and put a Gulfstream engineer on the stand who'll say it's possible because it is." Reyes shook her head. "Ms. Sterling, I believe you. I believe every word of it. Belief isn't a case." "Then what do you need?" "I need them to move," Reyes said. Ted. They moved at 2:41 on Friday afternoon. Nathan Cole was standing in the door of his own shop with a phone in his hand and a work order on the desk that Dr. Whitmore had finally miraculously paid $340 in cash with an apology. And Nathan was looking at that money and thinking about how 10 days ago $340 would have felt like being handed the world. Then his phone rang. The screen said, "Lincoln Elementary," and Nathan Cole knew. He knew before he answered. He knew in the way that a man knows a bearing's going. He picked up, and he was already reaching for his keys, and he heard his own voice come out perfectly steady and say, "This is Nathan Cole." "Mr. Cole, this is Denise in the front office. I'm sure this is nothing." "Where's my daughter?" "Sir, we have a note here that your sister picked Lily up at 1:15. "I don't have a sister." There was a silence on that line that Nathan Cole would hear in his sleep for the rest of his life. "Mr. Cole." "I don't have a sister," Nathan said. "I don't have a brother. I don't have a mother. I got a dead father and I got Lily, and that is the entire list. Who took my daughter?" "She had, sir. She had a note. It was on your letterhead. It had your signature. It's Mr. Cole." "It is your signature. I'm looking at it. I checked it against them." Nathan was already out the door. "Call the police," he said. "Call them right now." Then call the Newark FBI office, and you ask for Agent Dana Reyes, and you tell her Nathan Cole's daughter is gone, and you tell her they moved." "Sir, I don't understand." "Ma'am," Nathan said, "you will." Yep. Ray Dooley heard the truck door. He came out of the bay, and there was Nathan Cole, standing in the middle of his own parking lot, with his phone in his hand and his face. Ray had known this man 22 years, had known his father before that, and had never in his life seen this face. "Nathan." Nathan didn't answer. "Nathan?" "They got her," Nathan said. Ray's legs went. He caught himself on the doorframe. "What do you—" "They walked into her school with a note on my letterhead and my signature on it. And they took her at 1:15. And it's been an hour and a half, Ray. An hour and a half, and I was standing here counting $340. And then Nathan Cole's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He looked at it. Ray said, "Don't. Nathan, don't wait for the—" Nathan answered, "Mr. Cole." A man's voice, not Derek's. Younger, flatter, absolutely calm. "Don't talk. Listen. Your daughter is unharmed, and she is going to stay unharmed, and I'm going to prove it to you right now." A rustle, a shift, and then, from very far away, a small voice that went through Nathan Cole like a rail spike. "Dad." Nathan's whole body locked. "Lily. Dad." The phone moved. "That's all you get," the man said. Nathan Cole stood in his father's parking lot and heard himself say in a voice he did not recognize, "You listen to me. You listen. Whatever you want." "I know," the man said. "That's why I called." "Whatever you want." "There's a form," the man said. FAA 337, Major Repair and Alteration. You're an A&P certificate number 3847162. You've held it 22 years, you've never had a violation, and you are the last mechanic to have his hands inside that aircraft. A pause. "You're going to sign that the number 1 fuel line was found damaged by chafeware consistent with a misrouted harness. Manufacturing origin. You're going to sign that you found no evidence of tampering. And you're going to sign it as the certificated mechanic of record under your own certificate, because your name is the only name on this earth that makes it true." Nathan didn't say anything. "Mr. Cole?" "You want my certificate," Nathan said. "I want your word," the man said. "That's the whole point. The FBI has a theory. Sterling has a theory. The only fact anybody has is you, and if you say chafe, it's chafe. There is no case. There is no indictment. There's an insurance claim and a service bulletin and a very embarrassed CEO. And Lily. Lily comes home tonight and eats dinner and never knows what happened," the man said. "Mr. Cole, I want to be honest with you, because I think you're a man who responds to honesty. Nobody wants to hurt a child. Nobody in this is a monster. This is a business problem. You are being asked to write 4 sentences that are at worst an opinion you're not sure about. Men sign worse than that every day and sleep fine." Nathan Cole's hand was shaking so hard he had to press the phone against his skull to hold it there. "Where do I sign?" he said. "That's good," the man said. "That's very good." "Where?" "I'll call you at 8 tonight. You'll come alone. You'll bring a pen." A pause. "And Mr. Cole, the federal agent. Reyes. She's going to be standing next to you in about 40 minutes telling you to let her run this, and she's going to be very persuasive, and she is going to use the word protocol. So ask her how many she's gotten back," the man said. The line went dead. Reyes was there in 34. Victoria Sterling was there in 36, and she came through the door of that shop, still in a suit, and she stopped dead when she saw Nathan Cole sitting on an upturned bucket by the bay door, with his hands hanging between his knees. And she said his name, and he didn't hear her. "Nathan." Nothing. She crossed the floor, and she got down on her knees on the concrete in front of him, $4,000 suit oil on the floor, didn't hesitate a half second, and she took his wrists. "Nathan, look at me." He looked at her. And Victoria Sterling had spent 9 years learning to read faces, and there was nothing in this one. It was gone. There was a man-shaped hole sitting on a bucket. They got her because of me, Victoria said. Ma'am, they got her because of me, Nathan. Say it. Say it out loud, because if you don't say it, you're going to sit there and be decent about it, and I will not survive that. Nathan Cole looked at her a long moment. No, ma'am, he said. They got her because of me. That's not. They got her because at 3:18 on Tuesday I could have picked up $50. His voice cracked once, and he put it back together. That's it. That's the whole thing. There was a man standing there with a full toolbox and a bad rent, and he had a chance to take $50 and go home to his kid, and he didn't, because he wanted to be right, ma'am, because his daddy told him machines don't lie, and he liked how that sounded. Nathan. He wanted to be right, Nathan said, in front of the whole room. Victoria Sterling gripped his wrists so hard her knuckles went white. You wanted to save a stranger's life, she said. That's the whole thing. That's the actual whole thing. And if you sit in this shop and rewrite it into vanity because it hurts less, you're going to be doing exactly what those men need you to do. Nathan didn't answer. Reyes said from the doorway, Mr. Cole? Ma'am, I need you to tell me what he said. He said you'd say protocol, Nathan said. Reyes didn't blink. He's right, she said. There's a protocol. It's a good one. It's better than anything you're going to come up with sitting on that bucket, and I have used it, and it works. How many? Nathan said. How many what? Nathan Cole looked up. How many you gotten back, he said. And Dana Reyes. 23 years, 4 aviation cases, reading glasses in her hair, stood in the doorway of a failing repair shop and did not lie to him. 11 of 13, she said. The number went into that room like a dropped wrench. 11, Nathan said. Mr. Cole. 11 of 13. Yes. And the 2? Mr. Cole. And the 2, ma'am. One was a custody case, and the father was in Mexico inside 6 hours, Reyes said. And one was a man who signed what they told him to sign, and they killed the kid anyway 4 days later because he was the only witness left. Which is exactly what I came here to tell you. Nathan Cole sat there. That's the number, Mr. Cole, Reyes said. That's the real number, and I'm not going to sand it down for you. 11 of 13, and the one that went bad because the parent cooperated with them instead of me. Nathan stood up. He walked past her to his father's toolbox, and he stood there looking down at the lid at the block capitals in grease pencil that had never quite worn off. Machines always tell the truth. Learn to listen. Ma'am, he said. That phone call was 4 minutes long. Reyes's head came up. What? 4 minutes and 11 seconds. I looked. Nathan didn't turn around. He didn't have to be on there 4 minutes. He could have said 8 sentences and hung up. He gave me my daughter's voice, ma'am, and he gave me a certificate number, and he gave me a speech about how nobody in this is a monster. Mr. Cole. Why? Nobody answered him. Why'd he stay on 4 minutes? Nathan said. Samantha Hayes, standing in the doorway of that shop where nobody had noticed her come in, said quietly. Because he needed you to believe he was a professional. Nathan turned around. Say that again. He needed you to believe it, Samantha said. That's what the whole call was. It wasn't threats. It was Mr. Cole. It was sales. He was calm and he was reasonable, and he told you nobody's a monster, and he told you men sign worse every day and sleep fine. She swallowed. That's not a kidnapper. That's a guy who's read a book about it. Reyes said slowly, Ms. Hayes. He's not a professional, Samantha said. Professionals don't explain. And Nathan Cole stood there in the middle of his father's shop, and something moved behind his eyes. Ma'am, he said to Reyes. Play it again. Play what? You got it. Your people were on my line inside 20 minutes. Don't tell me you didn't get it. He crossed the floor. Play it again and turn it up, and everybody in this room shut up. Reyes looked at him for 1 second. Then she pulled out a phone, and she played it. Nathan Cole stood in the middle of his shop with his eyes closed and his head tilted slightly to the left, the way he'd stood in a hangar on Tuesday afternoon at 4:52 on the clock. Again, he said. She played it again. Again. Mr. Cole. Again. She played it a third time, and on the third pass at 2 minutes and 9 seconds in the gap between the words, insurance claim and service bulletin underneath the man's voice, underneath everything so faint that 4 people in that room had heard it 3 times and never once heard it, there was a sound. A small rhythmic mechanical hitch, every 4 seconds give or take, like something catching its breath. Nathan Cole opened his eyes. "Ma'am," he said, "I know where they are." Dana Reyes did not move. "Say that again." "Play it a 4th time," Nathan said. 2 minutes 9 seconds. Turn it all the way up and everybody hold their breath. She played it. There's an insurance claim and underneath it, buried so deep under a man's calm voice that it was less a sound than a suggestion of one, a hitch, a little catch. Then 4 seconds of nothing. Then it again. Samantha Hayes said, "Oh my God." "You hear it," Nathan said. "I hear it." "Say what it is." "It's an APU," Samantha said. "No, ma'am," Nathan said. "It's the APU." Reyes looked between them. "Somebody explain that to me in English in the next 10 seconds. "Ma'am," Nathan said. On Tuesday afternoon, I walked into that hangar, and the first thing I said to Ms. Sterling was that her auxiliary power unit had a hitch in it every 4 seconds, because a bracket under the floor was shifting a millimeter under load and cycling the system. Remember, I wasn't there Tuesday. "Then take her word." Nathan pointed at Victoria. "Ma'am, did I say it?" Victoria Sterling's voice came out flat. He said it before he'd been in the building 90 seconds. Marcus told him it was normal load cycling. Right. Nathan turned back to Reyes. "Now, that hitch is gone. It's been gone since 81 seconds after I put that bolt back where it belonged. Nobody's heard it since Tuesday night, because the airplane's fixed, and it's sitting in your hangar with 6 of your people photographing it. So the sound on that phone call," Nathan said, "is an APU with the exact same hitch in it right now, today." The shop went absolutely silent. "That's not possible," Reyes said. "Ma'am, Mr. Cole, you're telling me you can identify an individual engine from a phone call?" "No, ma'am," Nathan said. "I'm telling you I can identify a fault. That's different. That's like—" He stopped, started over. "Ma'am, if I told you a man had a limp, you wouldn't say I identified him. You'd say I narrowed it down." "To how many?" "That's the thing," Nathan said. "That's exactly the thing." He crossed to his father's toolbox and put both hands flat on the lid. "That hitch isn't a normal APU sound," he said. "It's not wear. It's not age. It's a signature, and it comes from one specific thing. An actuator interface, reporting a false position under cyclic load. That is a very rare, very specific failure. And I have seen it exactly 1 time in 22 years, and that was Tuesday in a G65. Oh, and ma'am, the reason it's rare is that somebody has to put it there." Reyes went very still. "You're saying—" "I'm saying whoever built that airplane's problem built it twice," Nathan said. "Once on Ms. Sterling's aircraft, and once on something else first to learn it. You don't do a job like that cold. You practice. Ma'am, I don't care who you are, you do not walk up to a $60 million airplane and do a thing you have never done before and get it right." "He practiced," Samantha said. "He practiced," Nathan said. "And whatever he practiced on is still sitting there with the hitch in it because he never bothered to fix it, because why would he? And it's running, right now. Close enough to a phone that I can hear it." Victoria Sterling said, "Nathan." He turned. Her face had gone a color Samantha had never seen on her. "We own 11 airframes," Victoria said. 9 are in Savannah at the completion center. One's the G65. Oh. One is a 1994 Hawker that we bought in 2019 as a parts donor and never parted out. Where is it? Hangar 11. Where's Hangar 11? It's not on this field, Victoria said. It's on the old field. It's a leased hangar 11 miles north with nothing in it but a dead Hawker and about $40,000 of racking, and it has been on our books since 2019, and Nathan, she stopped. Say it, Nathan said. There's no badge system on that building, Victoria said. It's a padlock. It's a padlock because we never got around to it, and there are 11 miles between it and any camera we own. Dana Reyes had her phone out. And who, she said, signed that lease? Victoria Sterling closed her eyes. Derek, she said. Reyes was moving before Victoria finished the word. Mr. Cole, don't touch anything. Don't call anyone. Don't leave this building. Ma'am, Ms. Sterling, I need the lease, the address, and every photograph of that structure that exists. Ma'am. Reyes turned. Nathan Cole was standing in front of his father's toolbox, and he had not moved, and his voice was very, very quiet. How long? He said. How long what? How long till your people are in that building? Reyes did not answer immediately, and that was the answer. Ma'am? I need a warrant, she said. I need a judge, and I need probable cause, and Mr. Cole, my probable cause is a mechanic's ears. Then use my ears. I can't put your ears in an affidavit. You can put my certificate in one, Nathan said. 22 years, no violations. Ma'am, you said it yourself, you needed them to move. They moved. They took my kid at 1:15, and they called me at 2:51, and I heard a fault in the background that only exists on one airplane in the state of New Jersey. And a defense attorney will say you heard a refrigerator. Then get the warrant on the lease, Victoria said. Reyes turned. What? Get the warrant on the lease, Victoria said, and there was something coming up in her voice now that had not been there in 4 days. It's my building. It's my airframe. It's on my books. I pay the utility bill, and I am telling you as the officer of the corporation that leases it that I consent to a search of my own property. Reyes stopped. Say that again, she said. I own it, Victoria said. I don't need a judge to let me open my own padlock. Ms. Sterling, if Voss has any expectation of privacy in that structure, he has an expectation of a paycheck, Victoria said, which as of 90 seconds ago he does not have because I am firing him from my phone right now while you decide whether you want to walk into that building with my written consent or wait 4 hours for a judge in Trenton. Reyes looked at her for 1 full second. Then she said, Give me your phone. Don't fire him. What? Don't fire him, Reyes said. Don't touch him. Don't email him. Don't look at him. Ms. Sterling, if that man gets 1 push notification in the next hour, he makes 1 phone call, and that little girl goes into a car. Victoria's mouth closed. Yeah, Reyes said. Now you're getting it. Dijon. They rolled at 4:40. Nathan Cole was not in the car. He was standing in the parking lot of his own shop watching 4 vehicles leave, and Dana Reyes had put her hand flat on his chest to keep him from the door of the last one, and she'd said the only thing that could have worked. Mr. Cole, if she's in there and she hears your voice, she runs. And if she runs toward you, and there will be a man between you. Nathan Cole had stood there with his fists open and closed. Ma'am, say you understand. I understand. Say it like you mean it. Nathan Cole said, I understand. And Dana Reyes got in the car, and the car left, and he stood in that parking lot with Ray Dooley and Samantha Hayes and Victoria Sterling, and he did not move for 11 minutes. Then he said, It's the wrong building. Ray said, What? It's the wrong building, Nathan said. Victoria turned. Nathan, you said, I said the sound was there, Nathan said. I never said my daughter was. Samantha Hayes said very carefully. Explain that. Nathan was already walking back into the shop. Ma'am, you said it yourself an hour ago. He's not a professional. He's a guy who read a book. He pulled a chair out from the desk and sat down hard and put his head in his hands. Professionals don't explain, and professionals don't make a ransom call from a room with a running airplane in it. Oh, Samantha said. You don't do that, Nathan said. You don't do that by accident, and you don't do it because you're dumb. That man was not dumb. That man was on the phone 4 minutes and 11 seconds, and every single word of it was engineered, ma'am. He gave me my certificate number. He gave me my violation history. He predicted the FBI would say protocol. That is a man who has thought about this for weeks. Victoria said slowly, "And you're saying he left the APU running?" "I'm saying a man who thinks for weeks doesn't stand in a hangar with a running APU and call a mechanic," Nathan said. "Ma'am, of every human being on God's earth, who is the one person you do not make that call in front of a running engine to?" Nobody said anything. "He wanted me to hear it," Nathan said. Ray Dooley sat down on the bucket. "Jesus Christ," he said. 4 minutes and 11 seconds, Nathan said. "He kept me on the line 4 minutes because he needed me to hear it at least twice. He needed me to have it. He needed a recording of it because he knew the Bureau would be on my line inside 20 minutes. He'd have been an idiot not to know that." Nathan looked up. "He gave me a clue, and he gave me a clue that only one man on this field could read. And he did it on purpose, and now there are 4 federal vehicles going 11 miles north." Victoria Sterling went white. "He's clearing the field," she said. "Yes, ma'am. He's Nathan. He's not hiding her there. He's using her to move every agent in New Jersey 11 miles north of wherever she actually—" "No, ma'am," Nathan said. "That's not it either." "Then what is it?" And Nathan Cole said, "It's a job interview." The shop was quiet. "I don't understand," Samantha said. "That man doesn't want a signature," Nathan said. "He's got a signature." "Ma'am, he's had my signature since 1:15 this afternoon. He forged it on a note and walked it into an elementary school, and it worked. He wrote my name well enough to fool a woman who's been looking at my handwriting for 3 years." Samantha's hands came up over her mouth. "He can sign that 337 himself," Nathan said. "He doesn't need me in a room with a pen. He never needed me in a room with a pen." "Then why?" "Because a forged 337 falls apart the second I stand up in a courtroom and say, 'That's not my writing,'" Nathan said. "He doesn't need my name on a form. He needs me to say the form is true. He needs the mechanic who found it to stand up in front of God and Agent Reyes and Harold Kessler and say, 'I was wrong, it was chafe.'" "He needs you broken," Victoria said. "Yes, ma'am." And so he took my kid," Nathan said. "And then he handed me a clue because he wanted to watch me use it." Nathan Cole stood up. "He wants to know if I'm the guy from the video," he said. "Because, ma'am, 41 million people have watched a man walk into a hangar and find in 5 minutes what 12 engineers couldn't find in 4 hours. And if you are the man who spent 11 weeks building the thing that mechanic broke, there is exactly one question you cannot stop asking yourself at 3 o'clock in the morning. Which is, was he lucky?" Nobody said anything. "He needs to know," Nathan said quietly. "He can't sleep. He's been lying awake for 4 days with a hole in him. Because if I was lucky, then he's still the smartest man in the building and he just got hit by weather. But if I wasn't—" He stopped. "If you weren't," Samantha said, "then he's spent his whole life being wrong about something." "Yes, ma'am." "About what?" Nathan Cole looked at the toolbox. "That people like me don't matter," he said. Victoria Sterling put her hands on the desk and leaned on them. "Nathan," she said, "where is she?" "I don't know yet." "Then what do we do?" "Ma'am," Nathan said, "we do the only thing I know how to do. Which is, we stop asking the computer where it hurts," Nathan said, "and we go listen to the airplane." He picked up his phone. "Ma'am, I need you to call Marcus Reed." Victoria blinked. "Marcus?" "Marcus Reed with the doctorate who had the paperwork open," Nathan said. "Yes, ma'am. Get him on the phone right now, and Ms. Hayes, I need you sitting next to him." "Nathan, what are we?" "Ms. Sterling," Nathan said. "There's a badge log with 211 reads on it, and Agent Reyes says every one of them's got an alibi, and that's a dead end." She said it was a signature. She was right. She was just reading the wrong signature. Nathan Cole put both hands on his father's desk. "Ma'am, a man got into your hangar on somebody's card," he said. "That's a fact. Reyes can't find him because she's looking for a card that shouldn't be there. That's the screen. That's asking the computer where it hurts." "Then what's the airplane?" The airplane, Nathan said, is that whoever he is, he was in that building for 3-4 hours on Friday night with an air stair up and a light on and a chemical on a fuel line. And ma'am, nobody works alone in the dark for 4 hours in January. Victoria stared at him. He turned on the heat, she said. Nathan Cole nodded once. Call Marcus, he said. Get me the utility record for Hangar 6 for Friday night. Not the badge log, the gas bill. Marcus Reed had it in 19 minutes. He called back at 5:44 and his voice was shaking so badly, Samantha had to put him on speaker twice. Nathan, talk to me. The unit heater in Hangar 6 cycles on a thermostat. It's dumb. It's an old Resner. It doesn't log anything. Marcus? But the gas meter logs. It's a smart meter. The utility put them in 2021. It reads every 15 minutes, and Nathan... He stopped. Nathan could hear him swallow. Friday night. From 10:15 p.m. to 2:30 a.m., Hangar 6 burned 411 cubic feet of natural gas. Is that a lot? It's 4 hours of a hangar heater running with the man door open, Marcus said. Nathan, that building was occupied for 4 hours and 15 minutes on a night when the badge log says exactly one fueler went in for 12 minutes. Victoria Sterling put her hand over her eyes. It's not proof, Marcus said. No, sir, Nathan said. It's better. How is it better? Because it's not a card, it's a clock, Nathan said. Marcus, 10:15 at night to 2:30 in the morning. That's not a random window. That's a man who came when the last person left and went home before the first person came back. Now, who left last Friday and who came first Saturday? There was a long pause on the line. Nobody came Saturday, Marcus said. Then who left last? Papers, typing, a chair. Anthony Pruitt, Marcus said. The fueler, out at 11:52. No, sir, Nathan said. He went in at 11:40 and out at 11:52, 12 minutes. Who left last before that? More typing. Karen, Marcus said. Karen Alvarez, Vic's assistant, badged out at 10:11 p.m. And Nathan Cole said very softly, 4 minutes. What? 10:11 she leaves, Nathan said. 10:15 the heat comes on. Thuds. Victoria Sterling said, no. Ma'am. No. Not Karen. Nathan? I've known that woman 11 years. She... Ms. Sterling. Nathan said, I'm not saying it's Karen. Then what are you saying? I'm saying somebody waited for her, Nathan said. I'm saying somebody sat in a car in that lot until the last light went out. And 4 minutes after Karen Alvarez's taillights left that parking lot, a man opened a man door and a thermostat woke up. And ma'am, that means he was watching the door. That means he knew Karen leaves last on Fridays. That means he'd watched more than one Friday. He looked up. Ms. Sterling, what's the one thing in your whole company that would tell a man what time Karen Alvarez goes home? Victoria Sterling stood in the middle of a failing repair shop. Her calendar, she said. Who can see her calendar? Everyone. It's Nathan. It's an open calendar that's the whole culture I built that I stood on a stage and said transparency is... She stopped. Ma'am, Nathan said, I need every person who opened Karen Alvarez's calendar in the last 8 weeks. Sussy. Marcus Reed called back at 6:31. 14 people, he said. How many are on the badge list? 9. How many of the 9 looked at it more than twice? Typing. 3, Marcus said. Names. Derek Voss, me, and... He stopped. Nathan Cole waited. Marcus. And Anthony Pruitt, Marcus said. Samantha Hayes said the fueler. 12 minutes. Nathan said. Nathan, that's 12 minutes. You said yourself you can't cut a line in 12. No, ma'am, you can't, Nathan said. But you can walk a man in the door and walk out. The shop went absolutely silent. Marcus, Nathan said. The fueler. What's his badge history? He's been here 6 years. How many times has he badged into Hangar 6 at night in 6 years? Typing stopped. Once, Marcus said. Nathan Cole closed his eyes. "Ma'am," he said, "call Reyes." Victoria already had the phone up. "She's not answering. She's 11 miles north in a—" "Then keep calling." "Nathan." "Keep calling, ma'am." And then Nathan Cole did the thing that Samantha Hayes would tell a federal grand jury about 14 months later in a courtroom with her hand shaking on a rail. He picked up his father's toolbox. "Nathan," Ray said. "Nathan, where in the hell are you going?" Nathan Cole stopped in the door of his own shop. "Ray," he said, "what's a fueler got?" "What? What's a fueler got that nobody else on that field's got?" Ray Dooley opened his mouth and closed it and went gray. "A truck," he said. "A truck," Nathan said. "A truck with a tank on it and a placard on the side and a gate code, and it goes anywhere on that field at any hour of the day or night, and not one living soul ever looks at it twice. Ray, I've been on that field 22 years. I have never once in my whole life looked at a fuel truck." Nathan. "And ma'am," Nathan said, turning to Victoria, "how many hangars you got on this field?" "4. "How many you use?" Victoria Sterling's hand came down from her face very slowly. 2, she said. Hangar 9 was 110 yards from Hangar 6. It had a Gulfstream tail dolly in it, a scissor lift, with a dead battery 11 pallets of interior panels from a completion job that got canceled in 2022, and a padlock that had been cut and replaced with a padlock that looked exactly like it. And it had a fuel truck parked inside it nose in with its side placard facing the wall. And it had an auxiliary power cart. Running. Nathan Cole stood outside that man door at 7:02 p.m. in the dark with his father's toolbox in his hand, and he listened, and there it was. Hum. 4 seconds. Hitch. 4 seconds. Hitch. Not an APU at all, a ground power cart. A little diesel APU on a trailer, the kind that had sat in the corner of that hangar since 2019 with an actuator interface in it that a man had practiced on 11 weeks ago and never bothered to fix. Nathan Cole stood in the dark and understood all at once everything. He hadn't been given a clue. He'd been given an address. And it wasn't a job interview. It was an invitation. Victoria Sterling caught him 12 feet from the door. Nathan, stop!" He didn't stop. She got in front of him. She put both hands flat on his chest, and she planted her feet on the tarmac, and she was 130 pounds against a man who had been picking up engines for 22 years, and it did not matter because he stopped. "Reyes is 9 minutes out," she said. 9 minutes, Nathan. 9 minutes. "Ma'am." "You wait 9 minutes. Ms. Sterling." Nathan Cole said, "There's a man in that building who wants me to walk in there." "I know. And if he wanted her dead, ma'am, she'd be dead. He doesn't want her dead. He wants me in the room." "Which is exactly why you don't go in." "No, ma'am," Nathan said. "It's exactly why I do." Victoria's hands fisted in his coat. "Nathan." "Ma'am, listen to me." His voice didn't rise. It never rose. "In 9 minutes, there's going to be 12 federal agents in that lot with vests on, and that man's going to hear 'em, and he's going to know it's over. And ma'am, a man like that has spent his whole life needing to be the smartest thing in the building. What do you think he does in the last 10 seconds when he finds out he's not?" Victoria Sterling's hands opened. "Yeah," Nathan said. "Nathan, he's got 9 minutes to be a genius," Nathan said. "Or he's got 9 minutes with me. Ma'am, I know which one I'd rather him spend it on." He stepped around her, then he stopped. And he turned back, and he held out his father's toolbox, and he said something that Victoria Sterling would think about every day for the rest of her life. "Hold this." She took it. 60 pounds of dented red snap-on. It nearly took her arm off. She got both hands under it. "Nathan." "Ma'am," Nathan Cole said, "if I don't come back out, you give that to Lily. Not the money, not $1 of it. That?" He nodded at the box. You tell her it was her granddaddy's, and you tell her there's writing on the inside of the lid, and you tell her that her daddy read it 9,000 times, and he never once figured out how to stop believing it. Victoria Sterling stood on the tarmac in the dark, holding a dead man's toolbox with both arms and could not speak. Nathan Cole walked to the man door. He put his hand on it. And then, because he was who he was, and he had been since he was 9 years old, he stopped and he tilted his head and he listened. 4 seconds. Hitch. And underneath it, underneath the cart, underneath everything so faint that no other human being on this earth would have caught it, a small voice, very calm, very steady, counting. 28, 29, 30. Nathan Cole's eyes came open. His daughter was counting. She was counting seconds out loud, the way a 7-year-old counts when she is trying very hard not to cry. And she was counting them in fours, and she was counting them with the hitch. And Nathan Cole stood outside that door with his hand on the latch, and understood that his little girl had been sitting in the dark for 6 hours, listening to a machine. Because her daddy had taught her that machines tell the truth. Nathan Cole opened the door. The counting stopped. Dad, Lily. Nathan Cole did not run. He made himself not run, and it was the hardest thing his body had ever done. Kiddo, keep counting. Dad, keep counting, Lily. A beat. A wet, ragged little breath somewhere in the dark past the fuel truck. 31, she said. 32. Good girl. That's my girl. And a voice from the far end of the hangar said, She's been doing that for 2 hours. I told her to stop. She wouldn't. Nathan stood still. She said she was listening to it, the voice said. She said her dad taught her that if you listen long enough, a machine will tell you where it hurts. She's 7. The lights came up. Not all of them. 2 banks over the dead scissor lift, and standing under them beside a running ground power cart was a man about 40 in a fleece vest and clean khakis with a laptop bag over one shoulder, and Lily Cole sitting on an upturned crate 11 feet behind him with a blanket around her and her arms wrapped around her knees. She was not tied. She was not gagged. There was a juice box on the crate beside her, and that, for reasons Nathan Cole could not have explained to a single living soul, was the thing that nearly took his legs out from under him. Anthony Pruitt, Nathan said. Yeah. The man's mouth moved a little. That was fast. 6 years fueling airplanes. 9. 6 here. You got an engineering degree, don't you? Nathan said. Anthony Pruitt's face didn't change, but something behind it did. Rutgers, he said. 2009. Huh. You want to say something about that? No, sir, Nathan said. I got nothing to say about it at all. Everybody's got something to say about it. Mister, Nathan said, I got a 4th grade education past high school and a shop that's 14 days from a padlock. I'm the last man alive who's going to say a word to you about a degree. Lily said, Dad, he's not been mean. I know it, kiddo. He gave me a juice. I see it. He wouldn't let me call you. Nathan Cole's jaw worked once. Lily, he said, look at me. Are you hurt anywhere? No. Nowhere at all. My legs are cold. Okay, Nathan said. Okay, that's all right. That's fixable. Anthony Pruitt said, Don't move toward her. Nathan didn't. I'm not going to hurt her, Pruitt said. I want you to understand that. That was never I've had her 6 hours. I bought her a juice box and I gave her my coat. Look at her. Look at her. I'm looking. Then say it. Nathan Cole said, You didn't hurt my daughter. Thank you. That's not thanks, Nathan said. That's just the truth. Mister, you took her out of a school with a forged note, and you sat her in a cold building for 6 hours, and you let her think one time for 1 second that she wasn't going home. He shook his head slowly. You can't put a juice box on that. There's no juice box big enough. Pruitt's throat moved. Yeah, he said. Yeah, I know. How long we got? Nathan said. What? Before the federal agents get here. You know they're coming. You built the whole afternoon so they'd go north. So how long? Pruitt looked at his watch. 7 minutes, he said. Then talk fast. That's it. Pruitt laughed, and it cracked in half. I've got your daughter, and you're telling me to talk fast. Mister, you don't have my daughter, Nathan said. You got a little girl on a crate and a laptop bag and 7 minutes in a thing eating a hole through you that's been eating for 4 days. You want to know if I was lucky? Anthony Pruitt stood absolutely still. That's why I'm in this room, Nathan said. That's the only reason. You could have been in Newark. You could have been on a plane Tuesday night. You stayed 11 miles from a federal investigation for 4 days because you have to know. Shut up. 4 minutes and 11 seconds on that phone call, Nathan said. You didn't need 4 minutes. You needed me to hear that cart. Shut up. You gave me the address, Anthony. Shut up. The word came out of him like something tearing, and Lily Cole flinched on her crate. And Anthony Pruitt saw it, saw a 7-year-old flinch, and something happened to his face that was worse than anger. He turned away from her fast, like a man turning away from a mirror. I wasn't, he said. I'm not. I know, Nathan said quietly. You don't know anything about me. No, sir, Nathan said, but I know that cart. Pruitt stopped. I know that cart, Nathan said. You practiced on it, 11 weeks ago, maybe 12. You wanted to see if you could put a bias in an actuator interface and make a computer scream in the wrong direction. And it worked, and you never fixed it, and it's been sitting in this building humming a confession every 4 seconds ever since. Yeah? You know what that is. What? That's the same mistake they made, Nathan said. The 12 of them, in the hangar. They had the answer screaming at them for 4 hours, and they couldn't hear it, because they were sure they already knew where to look. He tilted his head. Mister, you're not different from them. You're the exact same man in a cheaper vest. Anthony Pruitt's eyes came up. Say that again. You heard me? I fueled their airplanes, Pruitt said, and his voice came apart entirely. 6 years. 6 years I pulled a hose for men who could not tell you which way a bolt threads. Marcus Reed makes $400,000 a year, and he called me chief for 6 years and never once learned my name. 6 years. I know. You don't. I know, Nathan Cole said. And it went through that hangar like a rail spike because it was true, and Anthony Pruitt heard that it was true. Mister, I've been laughed at in a room by 22 people at 3:18 this Tuesday, Nathan said. A woman dropped $50 at my feet in front of everybody I've ever wanted to be, and I know what that does. I know exactly what that does, because I felt it go through me, and I stood there, and I felt every single inch of it. Then you know. And then I fixed her airplane, Nathan said. Silence. That's the difference, Nathan said. That's the whole difference, and it ain't a big one. You got laughed at, and you decided the world was going to find out what you could do. So did I. Only difference between us is which end of the wrench we picked up. That's easy for you. Easy. Nathan's voice finally moved. Just a little. Easy. Mister, I had 14 days and $112, and I looked at that 50 on the floor and I wanted it. Don't you tell me easy. Then why didn't you take it? And Nathan Cole said, because she was going to ask me where I got it. He didn't point. He didn't have to. Anthony Pruitt turned his head and looked at a 7-year-old girl in a stranger's coat on an upturned crate, and he stood there for about 4 seconds, and then he put his hand over his mouth. Yeah, who paid you? Nathan said. What, Anthony? Nathan's voice was gentle now, and that was somehow worse. You didn't do this for the vest. 6 years of being called chief doesn't buy an 11-week project. Somebody funded this. Somebody gave you a schedule and a seat number and $80,000 or 100 or whatever the number was. And I want you to understand something. What? That man is not coming to this hangar, Nathan said. Pruitt didn't move. He's not in the parking lot, Nathan said. He's not on the phone. In about 6 minutes, there's going to be 12 federal agents in this building, and every one of them is going to look at exactly one man, and it's gonna be the fueler. Nathan took one step. Mister, he called you chief for 6 years too, didn't he? He just did it in a nicer voice. Anthony Pruitt's eyes were wet and furious. You don't know that. No, sir, I don't. Nathan spread his hands. That's why I'm asking. And Anthony Pruitt said Kessler. The hangar rang with it. Say that again, Nathan said. Harold Kessler, Pruitt said. Not Voss. Voss is a coward. Voss is a guy who parks in the reserved spot and talks about his house. Kessler's been trying to buy Aurelia for 19 months, and Sterling wouldn't sell, and the valuation on a company whose CEO dies in her own airplane is... He stopped. Say it, Nathan said. 30 cents on the dollar, Pruitt said. It's 30 cents on the dollar, and a fire sale, and an aviation company that killed its own founder. He wasn't buying a company, he was buying a funeral. And the 72 hours. What? He gave her 72 hours on the deal, Nathan said slowly. Wednesday. He gave her 72 hours to make it not be a mechanic's opinion. Nathan Cole's face went somewhere very cold. He wasn't holding the deal open. He was setting a clock. He told me I had until Monday, Pruitt said. Until Monday to what? Anthony Pruitt looked at the floor. To make you say chafe, he said, or to make sure nobody'd believe you if you didn't. And after Monday, Pruitt didn't answer. Anthony, Nathan said. After Monday, what happens to the fueler? And Anthony Pruitt, 40 years old. Rutgers, 2009 11 weeks of the best work of his life, sitting in a federal evidence bag, stood in a dark hangar and said the thing he had been refusing to say to himself for 4 days. Nothing good, he said. Nathan Cole heard the cars at 4 minutes, not the sirens. There weren't any. He heard tires on cold tarmac and a door that didn't slam. That's them, he said. Anthony Pruitt's hand went into the laptop bag. Nathan Cole did not move, did not flinch, did not look at his daughter. Anthony, don't. Anthony, look at me. Don't. Son. Nathan Cole said, there's a 7-year-old in this room. And Anthony Pruitt stopped with his hand in the bag. You got about 90 seconds, Nathan said, to decide what the last true thing about you is. That's it. That's all there is left. Not the degree, not the 6 years, not one thing anybody in that hangar ever said to you. He held out his hand palm up the way a man holds out a hand for a wrench. 90 seconds. What's the last true thing? The hangar hummed. 4 seconds. Hitch. Anthony Pruitt took his hand out of the bag. There was a hard drive in it. Everything, he said. Every text, every wire, every drop. 19 months of Harold Kessler. His hand was shaking so badly the drive rattled. I'm not stupid, Mr. Cole. I've been in that hangar 6 years. I know what happens to the guy nobody knows the name of. Nathan Cole took it out of his hand. Thank you, he said. Don't thank me. I'm not, Nathan said. That's just the truth. The man door came off its hinges 11 seconds later, and Dana Reyes came through it with 8 people, and a lot of shouting, and Anthony Pruitt was face down on the concrete with his hands behind him before Nathan Cole had taken 2 steps. Nathan didn't watch any of it. He was already on his knees. Dad. I got you. Dad. I got you, kiddo. I got you. I got you. Lily Cole came off that crate like something breaking loose and hit him at a dead run, and Nathan Cole got both arms around her and put his face in her hair, and he did not make a sound. Not one. For about 4 seconds. And then, Nathan Cole, who had faced down a billionaire 12 engineers, a federal agent, and a man with a hard drive and a bag knelt on the floor of a cold hangar and came apart entirely in front of 9 federal officers and a CEO and everybody, and not one human being in that building looked away. I counted, Lily said into his coat. Dad, I counted. It went funny every 4. I know you did, baby. I did it out loud so you could hear me. Nathan Cole made a sound then. I heard you, he said. Lily, baby, I heard you. Victoria Sterling was standing 11 feet inside the door, with 60 pounds of dented red toolbox in both arms, and she had not put it down, and she had been holding it for 9 minutes and 31 seconds, and her arms were screaming, and she did not put it down. Nathan came out with Lily's legs around his waist and her face in his neck. He stopped in front of Victoria. Neither of them said anything for a while. "Nathan," Victoria said. "It was Kessler." "Yes, ma'am. He sat on a screen in my boardroom and told me companies die from stories." "Yes, ma'am." "He was setting a clock." "Yes, ma'am." Victoria Sterling's jaw was shaking. "Nathan, I pushed the deal. For 19 months. I sat in rooms with that man and let him talk to me the way he talked to me because I wanted the money, and I told myself it was for the company, and I told myself I was tough enough to take it." "Ma'am?" "And he was going to kill me, and I was going to say thank you." "Ma'am." Victoria stopped. "Hold your arms out," Nathan said. "What?" "Hold 'em out." And Victoria Sterling, confused, exhausted, shattered, held out both arms with a dead man's toolbox in them. Nathan Cole looked at it. "You held it," he said. "Yes." 9 minutes. "Yes." "You didn't set it down." "No." "Ma'am," Nathan Cole said, "there's 400 people at your company, and I'd bet every dollar of that 5 million that you're the only one who wouldn't have set it down." Victoria Sterling stood in a hangar door with tears coming straight down her face and did not wipe them. "Take your box," she said. "No, ma'am," Nathan said. "Carry it to the truck. My hands are full." Oh. Harold Kessler was arrested at 6:14 the following Tuesday morning at Teterboro in a hangar standing next to an airplane, which the newspapers all mentioned because it was the kind of detail newspapers cannot help themselves about. He was 74. He was worth $2 billion. He had 51 years in the business. He took 11 and a half. Anthony Pruitt took 6, and he took them after standing up in a federal courtroom for 2 full days and dismantling Harold Kessler brick by brick, with a hard drive and a memory for detail that made 2 attorneys physically ill. And on the last day, when the AUSA asked him why he'd handed the drive over, Anthony Pruitt said, "Because a mechanic asked me what the last true thing about me was, and I couldn't think of one, and I wanted there to be one." Derek Voss was not charged with anything. He had done nothing. He had signed a lease in 2019 and told everyone about his house 200 times, and it turned out that a man can be the most exhausting person in a company and still not be the villain. And that was, Victoria said later, the single most humbling thing she learned out of all of it. She apologized to him. He took a job in Denver 8 months later anyway. The check cleared on a Thursday. $5 million wired exactly as promised, exactly as witnessed, exactly as Bet and Victoria Sterling brought it to the shop herself in a hangar where everyone had laughed in front of the same 12 engineers, and she stood in front of all of them, and she did not read from anything. On January 8th, she said, "At 3:18 in the afternoon, I threw $50 at a man's feet in this building and told him to leave real machines to real engineers." Nobody moved. 22 of you laughed, Victoria said. "I have the video. I've watched it 140 times. I'd like every one of you to watch it once." She turned. Nathan Cole found in 4 minutes and 52 seconds what we could not find in 4 hours, and then he refused to take the money and go home. And that refusal is the only reason I am standing in this hangar today instead of in 11 pieces in a field outside Zurich. She looked at the floor, then back up. "I built this place on a sentence," she said. "Data over instinct. It's engraved in the lobby. It's coming down Monday." Marcus Reed said quietly, "What's going up?" And Victoria Sterling said, "Machines always tell the truth. Learn to listen." She looked at Nathan. "If the family says yes." Nathan Cole stood there a long moment. "He'd have hated that," he said. "He'd have said it was showing off." "Is that a no?" "That's a yes, ma'am," Nathan said. "He'd have hated it, and he'd have driven out here twice a week to look at it." He paid the rent. That was the first thing. $1,100 and 41 days, and the man from Denton Property Group took the check in the parking lot and said, "Mr. Cole, I've got to be honest, I had you in the pool." And Nathan said, "Who'd you pick?" And the man said, "March." And Nathan said, "Yeah, so did I." He paid Ray Dooley 5 weeks of back wages, and then he made him a partner. And Ray sat down on the bucket and looked at the paperwork for a long time and said, "Nathan, I'm 68. And Nathan said, "So work 11 more and quit." And Ray said, "Well, hell." And that was the whole negotiation. He bought the building. He kept the sign. Cole AIRC Aft C Vice. He kept every faded letter of it. And when Victoria offered to have it restored by a shop in Manhattan for $9,000, Nathan said, "Ma'am, half this town calls it the Airc Aft. That's the only name I ever got for free." He put 12 kids through A&P school in 4 years. He never took a dollar back from a single one. The only requirement was that they had to spend 1 day a month in his shop, and on that day, they were not allowed to use a computer, and Ray Dooley would stand over them with a thermos and say, It's telling you right now, you just don't want to hear it." Samantha Hayes made Director of Airworthiness at Aurelia at 32. The first thing she did was write a policy that any employee at any level could ground any aircraft for any reason, and no one could overrule it, except her. And in the first year, it got used 9 times, and 8 were nothing. And 1 was a cracked bracket on a wing spar that would have come apart over Nova Scotia. Marcus Reed got his A&P at 48. He took the practical exam 3 times. He passed on the 3rd and cried in his car in the parking lot, and then drove 11 miles to a repair shop across the field and handed Nathan Cole the certificate without a word. And Nathan looked at it and said, "3rd time," and Marcus said, "3rd time," and Nathan said, "Good. First time guys scare me." The $50 bill hangs in a frame on the wall of that shop. Nathan never spent it. He never picked it up either. Samantha did 4 days later off the floor of Hangar 6 and brought it to him in a sandwich bag like evidence, and he laughed for the first time in a week. There's no plaque under it. People ask about it all the time, and Nathan Cole never explains it because that's not what it's for. It's for a girl. Lily Cole is 14 now, and she is in that shop every day after school, and she is better with a torque wrench at 14 than most men are at 30. And every so often, some customer will lean on the counter and say something about how it must be nice having a dad who got handed $5 million. And Lily Cole will look up from the bench, and she will look at the frame on the wall, and she will say the same thing every single time. Nobody handed him anything, mister. He earned $50 that day, and he wouldn't take it, and that's how everything else happened. Because that is what happened. A woman threw money at a man's feet in front of 31 people, and he did not pick it up, and he fixed her airplane anyway, and then he told her the truth, when the truth cost him everything he had left. And when they took the only thing on this earth that mattered to him and offered it back for 1 lie, 4 sentences, an opinion he wasn't sure about, something men sign every day and sleep fine. Nathan Cole listened instead. The way his father taught him, the way he taught his daughter. And a 7-year-old girl in a cold, dark hangar counted out loud in 4s so her daddy could find her. And he did. Because the man everybody laughed at was the only one in the building who ever bothered to listen, and in the end, that was worth more than every dollar Harold Kessler ever had.